All right, we're all set. Thank you. All right, so welcome. Welcome back to the school committee. We just came back from executive session. So we're coming to our open session at 7:13. We're going to start with the consent agenda. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anybody have any questions about the warrants or the meeting minutes?
I sent Lisa DeLuzio some updates to the meeting minutes. There was an error, and then I wanted to clarify the motion about the group, not necessarily subcommittee, to relook at the calendar as a whole.
So why don't we leave the minutes off the?
So Lisa said
it's in there.
I think she updated it.
Oh, and that's
Yeah.
what's in there
Yeah.
now. Okay, all right. I thought you meant post this.
No.
You sent
Yep.
more. Okay.
Nope.
Great. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Moved by Stacy.
Moved by Stacy. Moved by Stacy. Second by Cynthia. All in favor? Thank you. All right. So our student representatives
Oh, I'm not using
up here to. Not here. Nope, not you students, different students. You got nervous there for a second. Sorry, I should have been more clear. In school committee individual comments. Excuse me.
So I think I'll sort of speak on behalf of the students. The semi-formal for the freshmen and sophomores, tickets are on sale. I don't have the date in front of me, but it's the beginning.
March 10th.
Thank you. At Warren Conference Center, so tickets are on sale this week, correct?
This week only, so you
Yep.
have to buy by tomorrow.
And, good luck and congratulations to all the, I was going to say winter sports that are now starting to wrap up their seasons, and some championships, et cetera, are happening. So good luck to all the athletes.
Thank you, Stacy. Amanda?
Just turn the Zoom to myself. So I just wanted to thank and congratulate the middle school for having the Holocaust survivor come and speak to the
Yep.
8th graders who are studying reading Night and Diary of Anne Frank. I know it was a really engaging opportunity, and my daughter's in 8th grade, so personally I'm really glad that she had that opportunity. So thank you to Rams and the team that made that possible.
Great. Thank you. Cynthia?
I have two resolutions that I want to put forward to the committee for their consideration. One of them is regarding universal school meals. As you know, the last 2 years of COVID, the state has been funding free school meals for all students across the Commonwealth, and there is a legislative push to make this a permanent change, and I would like for us to support that. There's current legislation, HD 766, in the Mass Legislature, and also SD 1013, which is co-sponsored by our local representative, James Arena DeRosa. So I'm going to forward that for all of you to take a look at, and I was hoping that we could kind of look over it, or you could look over it at some point next week or two, and then we could talk about whether or not we wanted to vote on that at our next meeting. The other one is regarding an increase in the special education circuit breaker funding. There is some current legislation that is going through the process that talks about increasing the reimbursement rate from 75% to 90%, but their MASC is supporting changing the multiplying factor of the average state per pupil foundation rate, which is currently, and I may be wrong about this, Keith, $13,142 per pupil is what I had. And to change that multiplier to 3 times instead of 4 times the foundation budget. And that, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to affect or impact Holliston in particular, so I need to get to those figures from Mr. Boudet. But as we know, out-of-district placement costs are increasing rapidly in our district, as well as across the Commonwealth. And with the Massachusetts Operational Services Division has voted to increase tuition at private special education schools at 14%, which is astronomical. So this is in a way to try to help local districts address the special education increases overall to our districts on the local level. So.
Can I just piggyback on that?
Yes.
So Catherine and I and Joni are attending the legislative breakfast with James and Senator Spilka and a number of superintendents to discuss these matters after the Governor Healy's vote on the budget is supposed to come through around March 1st. So March 3rd, we'll be having this conversation with about all these items as well.
Okay. And then further, usually we have a day on the Hill, which is May 4th. We haven't attended that to see our local legislators since 2019. I think Stacey and I had gone in 2019. So that would be it's an advocacy day for us as school committee members, and I would encourage all of us who can attend to attend. I plan to be there. So, and that's all I have. I'm going to send it to you guys now.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Anybody else? Lisa?
I'll just put in a plug for the event coming up. This is co-sponsored by the Holliston Community Education Collaborative. I think that must be what was Mindshare. They're
No,
hosting-
that's separate.
Oh, it is?
This is not mine. Yes.
Oh, this is, okay. All right. Well,
I just want to be clear.
Diverse Holliston sent it out. Oh, it is a group. It's Diverse Holliston plus Mindshare.
Right.
Plus the schools plus CPAC. Okay. Anyway, just wanted to plug this event coming up on, I keep closing the window.
March 7th?
March 7th. I keep clicking the wrong button. March 7th, 6:30 to 8 here in the high school library, and it's how to have conversations with our children for greater inclusion, which is, I think, a topic a lot of parents, myself included, need help with. And so, yeah, I'm leaving out a whole bunch of groups, but it's, this group is Diverse Holliston, the PTO Mindshare, Public Schools, CPAC, which is Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and then Holliston Youth and Family Services. So, a lot of people involved, and there's a Zoom option available too.
Great. Thank you, I did. Sorry, Lisa, I felt like I was talking over you, and that was rude. My computer just went blank for some reason, so I apologize.
No, I didn't
Sorry.
even notice.
Anybody else?
Announcements. I'm gonna plug you in. Do you need me to plug you in?
No. It was the internet. It just went blank. Thank you. Sorry, did anybody else have anything to say? Great, okay. So this is the public comment. Terry, you want to come on up? You just sort of hang out at the end right there, and then... Just let us know who you are.
Yes, so I am Terry Chamberlain, president of the Holliston Music and Arts Parents Association. This is Kathy Walters, who is the vice president. So it has been brought to HMA's attention that the ceiling outside the high school's band room developed a severe leak following heavy rain in December. We know that this is due to the bricks in the exterior wall at the front of the auditorium where it meets the roof of the band and chorus wing were improperly sealed, allowing water to permeate through the wall. This has led to numerous leaks in that wing over the years, as the problem has never been properly addressed. And issues with water only increase if not dealt with. They don't just go away. So the band students have had to relocate to the auditorium for practice, which is inconvenient enough. But with only 40 minutes to practice due to the band being scheduled during DSB, they lose valuable rehearsal time when they have to relocate. There are also serious concerns about potential damage to expensive musical instruments and the sensitive electronic equipment in the music technology lab. Last year, HMAPA funded the replacement of costumes for the theater, which were damaged by mildew during lockdown. Failure to solve this issue is a huge disservice to both the students, not to mention a potential health hazard by breathing in moldy air, but also to the community of Holliston. We know that the hope is for a new high school building, but that is not something that is going to happen tomorrow or even next year, and the auditorium will remain as is. Correcting this problem cannot be delayed any longer. We would like to know what has been done or what the plans are for, one, remediation of the dampness and potential mildew already existing due to the leak in December and also earlier leaks, and 2, for repairs to the wall to finally solve the ongoing issue. We would like this to be made an agenda item for discussion, and we want to see a plan put in place. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Did you have anything to say, or are you here from just together? Okay. Right.
You did great.
So thank you for coming. This part is always really awkward because we're not supposed to have a discussion about this now
Right.
because
No, I
it's just a
understand. I
public
understand that,
comment.
yes.
So I don't want you to think that we're just ignoring you and moving on to the next. It feels weird, but that's just how we have to go.
And I understood that coming in, so.
Okay. But I thank you for coming in, and thank you for all of the work that you do, and for replacing all the costumes, because I know you can't get mildew out of things.
No.
So thank you for everything that you do for the program and for music and for art.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to presentations. We're going to hear from the Global Citizens Program.
Everybody?
How you doing?
We're a group, of course. We're global. We're the screen?
Oh, do you need,
Do you
do you have
need it?
wireless?
No, but I know how to do it to get one. I'm not that hip.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can take this and we'll,
Oh, this one will work. I think-
Oh,
yeah, I can
okay.
switch it over.
Oh,
to-
great.
Thank you. Oh, is it on? What-
No, it's not on.
We have them all spread out a little so we can all see them. I know, this is, can they not sit at the end where Cynthia's going to?
Yeah, if you could, just so we can see you. Just so that we can see you all.
swing around.
If you can. Are you all talking at some
Shouldn't
point?
have
or-
if you're not doing.
Let me just, so whoever's going to talk, if you can just like kind of play musical chairs, and whoever's going to talk kind of sit near the microphone, just so we can make sure
See
that
if
the
this
people at
one
home
works,
can
if
hear
that one
you.
doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe it's because you're in here.
I haven't plugged in yet,
Oh,
so.
okay.
That's in the Chromebox.
Oh, I did.
Oops.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I recognize that now. That's just going to be short. In fact, well done.
Somebody want, I mean, we have one with us.
Okay.
There you go.
For
us, it's for.
No, I didn't think you could hear it.
That's right there. It's going.
We're just watching all of these.
All right. So you guys probably remember, or we were here a year ago. Doug Calais.
Erica Calais?
Caitlin Mills.
So we're a few of the advisors. Sean Frost couldn't be here tonight, the other advisor, and we have 2 students with us, okay? So a year ago or so we were here and we kicked this off, thank you. We weren't sure if we were gonna have 12 students, 15, 8, and we're happy to tell you that we are at about 60 students in our program right now that are seeking endorsement, okay? Much more than we anticipated, and it's been awesome, okay? We're up to a good, for our first year, we feel pretty good at that. So we're going to keep it brief, and we're certainly happy to talk all night if you wanted to. We just want to show you just some of the things going on with our program. This is if you were to go to the website, which you can find in the academics page of the high school website. You can find this, and I'm down on the Students in Action page. And this year we had 2 Intro to Global Citizenship courses run. So one of the requirements for the program is that they take the intro class. Hopefully it's freshmen or sophomores. And so we had 2 sections, which was super. And just some of the activities that they ran was this global cafe. It's just one of the many things they did in the class. They did some side assessments around the school. And they opened the book on sustainable goals, which is thematic through our whole program, of course. They did some PSAs, and the teacher, Ms. Frost, really enjoyed teaching, and the students are really engaged in those courses. Okay.
The PSAs are going to be in here so you can see them, but they're 1 or 2 minute little PSAs that the kids in the class did. They're awesome. It's so fun to look at.
on all kinds of topics, letting your lawn go wild, to voting, to you name it.
Women's rights.
Yeah, women's everything. Some of you were here. I just happened to see you guys here, but they did this boutique, this pop-up a few weeks ago, and they raised $2,000 in one night to send to.
1,400.
It was 1,400. Thank you. Yeah.
That's why some of us are here.
Yeah. It would say Afghanistan. Where did it
It's for a scholarship for young women in Afghanistan trying to achieve education.
So this is just a couple examples of the course and what the students are doing is, 9th and 10th graders, getting going, just starting to get the mindset of being globally aware, acting locally and globally, certainly. And we had 2 sections of service learning this year too, first semester now. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I teach service learning. It's a semester course, and in the fall I had a group. A number of them were our GCP students, some were not. We had a variety of projects, and this is just the highlight of our community celebration that I know Cynthia and Stacy were at. And James Arena DeRosa, that's one of his posts on Facebook, he came, and it was just a great evening to hear from the students and the different projects that they did around different community needs and issues. And in fact, 2 of the seniors from GCP were in the course, Brenna and Amelia, and you'll hear from them shortly. They did a project on water quality locally, but there were other projects around hunger, mental health, and a number of other ones as well. But if you go scroll up a little bit more, you'll see there's a link to the Google site where you can check out more about the projects. Yeah, right there.
So, again, just don't expect anybody to remember any of this. Part of our program is certainly some taking coursework and just like a minor in college, doing some extra, instead of taking other classes, they tend to focus on ones that are globally oriented. And every department has something globally oriented, and some departments more. And every year, we're lucky here, we pitch new courses. And that will help feed and drive that, as we do that based on student interest, certainly. So it's coursework, and then it's also what we call passport activities and mentorship. These are things that students do equally as important, and sometimes the level of learning is equal and then some when they get involved in these other activities. And there's all kinds of things that they will be doing. It's student driven. Sometimes we will initiate things or opportunities. And mentorship is something we started. All the students who participate in that. We have mentors. The junior, seniors mentor the 9th and 10th graders, and then the 9th and 10th graders will become mentors to the younger students. And again, we're in a learning curve. We're just getting this going. It's been, so far, been pretty fantastic. And here's some examples of other students. Evie, won this, the regional competition here, and her topic in this speech, the debate, was around the environment. And another example of passport activities is Amelia here. This is an example that we've used for students can get a lot of work done, not in classes that are globally oriented, but sometimes just typical classes, for instance, statistics, which you might think could be very neutral to anything like that. But given the opportunities to do independent research projects that are very student-driven, based on interest, she did one here on emissions in the USA, and it's a research project. You have to write a report. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, so we were kind of given the option to research whatever we're interested in and connect statistics to something that we personally are passionate about. And since I'm part of Global Citizens, I decided to do something about climate change, and I actually ended up learning a lot, talking to my teacher because he was also interested in the same things, learning a lot about how data can be skewed and how it's really important to be able to read that kind of data and interpret it.
And you can access her full report. It says click here. You can access it there. It's quite impressive, the work that you did.
it's become a model for the teacher's class and certainly for us too about the kind of quality work that we're looking at, students engaging in.
How can folks at home get to this? Is it from the high school website?
Yeah, high school website under academics. There's 2 endorsement programs now. There's the computer science, and right next to below that is the global citizens. You see exactly what you're looking at there. The other component to our, in earning the endorsement is the capstone project. So students will engage in this. Typically we're thinking junior years when it would begin, but there's a lot. Some students are going to start earlier because they're highly motivated to get in the 9th grade and they do service learning early, and it could start a little later. Okay, but we've been really proud of we have 7 capstones going on this, in our first year, and these are students that clearly were already before we began this program globally oriented, and everything they do and their interests and the coursework they pursued. And some of the students had service learning as sophomores with Ms. Mills, and they have stuck with that project because they care. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at that kind of student and those students modeling how to be a good global citizen. And so this year we have 7 capstones. All right. Next year we expect there'll be about 7 or so more. The current juniors we have based on their size, and they pair up sometimes. Yeah, we have 9 I think seniors now, right? Yeah. And then the years after, based on the current freshmen, sophomores that we have, we're going to be having 20 capstones or more. We don't know who's going to pair up or do individual work, but it's quality work. A high point for us. A huge high point for us was when we did our check-ins with you guys with the capstones and just hearing their level of engagement, intrinsic interest, motivation, wanting to go down those deep rabbit holes to learn and do this work. It's just fantastic, and we're very happy, satisfied, proud about that award. And then I guess I'd like to take a moment to let Jenna and Brenda, and Amelia, sorry, it's my brain. They know I always and I know who they are. Right? This is their project right here, and again, you guys can all go look at all these. And I'll let you guys talk about your project.
So at the beginning of service learning, we do like a little research area as we interview people that we know. And so during these interview processes, I talked to my brother and his wife who live in Maryland, and they were talking about the water quality and pollution there. And then I thought back to here because I used to walk around downtown all throughout middle school, and you'd see trash and whatnot. And I'd always walk on the 8 Arch Bridge, and occasionally there was trash. And so then we kind of turned that to researching about our watershed. And then from there, we wanted to pursue looking into water quality and pollution in our town.
Yeah, so from there, we reached out to the Department of Public Works and our town sustainability coordinator, Matt Zedek, and we've been able to partner up with this program called Matter of Trust. And what they do is they make hair mats, which soak up oil and chemical, and that has been like our main direction. So like from then. So what we're planning on doing, we're on a wait list to get a machine that's basically like a loom to make these hair mats. And what we noticed a lot is like around storm drains, like a lot of oil runoff like downtown and on like really heavily populated areas, as well as like litter and chemicals. So we're planning on making these hair mats and putting them as storm drain covers and like storm drain barriers, so that the chemicals will get soaked up and the trash will kind of get like guarded out of going actually into the storm drain. And we're hoping that will start in the next few months, and we'll actually be the first Northeast Coast partner for Matter of Trust. They're a worldwide organization, but they haven't gotten to the east or to the Northeast Coast yet.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is these hair mats are completely sustainable, and we could even reach out to local businesses and say, hey, if you want to help the climate in our world and your community especially, you can actually donate the hair, and fibers that can go as even to pet salons. So every time they groom, they can take this hair and they can make an initiative to like collect hair and then donate it back to Matter Trust. and then basically it gets put into this, you submit it through Homesome, which is a website that they own, and it gets sent immediately to us. And then another part is say that there's some big natural disaster, like some truck overflow, spills oil everywhere, that we can actually make mats that can get sent to this location. So this company got a big claim, to fame and stuff, and a lot of awareness from when there was an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and they started using their mats there and using them. And so they have tons of partners, in development and research, especially also into, plants and stuff and how it can retain moistures during droughts. So these mats can be used to reduce pollution entering our storm drains through runoff, but it can also be helped to improve local farming and worldwide issues.
Were you able to get your garage yet?
No, not yet. We're still trying to find a space to have the machine stay, and we got good news that we basically can keep this machine as long as we want it. And
Okay,
so
well, we gotta promote this. It takes time, but
Yeah.
we're gonna get you that machine.
Yes.
We're gonna get you that garage. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
We're gonna get you that garage. So
Yeah.
we'll keep working it. And I reached out to some people who are also in the Climate 350 group, and they had responded that Matt had shared with them your project. But we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
How big is it?
So it can fit in a one-car garage, so it's not that big, and
Okay.
it's their big push is that they don't want to make bigger machines. They would rather have use smaller ones so that they can be easily transported, so it can be carried by 2 people as they placed. And so all they say is 180 square feet, which is about the size of a one-car garage.
So, is there a place where you can donate these here?
Yeah, it's called the Humsum, so HUMSUM. And you can also find off Matter of Trust's website.
If you scroll up and they're on their Google site, go up. Other way.
Oh, other way.
Yep, Matter of Trust. I think you will keep going. Right there, Matter of Trust. Yep.
So that's their website, mattertrust.org. And from there you can find more FAQs, and you can get the direct link to donating hair and stuff.
So that would dog hair actually? I mean,
You
wow.
can take any hair, either if it's the bleached or unbleached, as long as it's above your shoulders.
I had it all over me when I walked in tonight, and I was like, maybe I could have been a mat for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Dog hair everywhere.
Dog hair.
Yeah.
So how do these mats get recycled, do you know?
So once, say, you get them full of oil, and it also takes heavy metals and chemicals, so once that is full, so all the dirty water will go through and clean water comes out, but it's full, then they can be thrown away with your normal trash. And so they don't need any special processing or anything to go some separate place.
Got it.
Yeah.
So will you have to get the hair from them, or will you do your own collection of hair from
So-
local dog salons and things like that?
We can spread the word about it, and then other places in town can send it to them. That way, in case, say, we have tons of people in the community who want to help, and we get overloaded with hair, we can email, and which is
I can see that happening.
exactly. So we
That's
can
what I
email directly to the company, and they'll cut off donations to us, or say we need to create a lot of hair mats really fast. We'll email Matter of Trust, and they will start sending us hair from all around the world. So they ask to get donated through the Humsun. That way, it can get traced and say we finally get the space we need, and we move locations. That way, everyone knows to send it to a new location, not some other address.
Right.
You don't want them dropping off a pile of hair on your doorstep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, my shepherd's trolley can cover Holliston.
Yeah. And so the cool thing about this project is also that through a friend of mine who's a teacher in a different school district, she told me about this challenge that National Geographic is doing called the Slingshot Challenge. So we're actually talking about that and promoting our project and how our initiative to take forward on that. So it's due in a couple days. So we did all the filming, and we got our sample hair mats recently as well. So we got a couple samples to look.
Did you bring any?
No, we did not. We should have. Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, we took some pictures of them, so we'll post them. But yeah, so that's their hair mat rather than the storm drain guard, but it's this big and it's really well made, so nothing will come off, and they can also withstand being run over by trucks. So they're near indestructible. Unless you take a scissors to it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where do you see them deploying these in the town to start just
in the downtown area?
So our baseline analysis showed that we wanted to put them in basically downtown, as well as by Factory Pond and the 8 Arch Bridge, and by Hopping Brook. So that's our main traveled areas, as well as kind of towards Lake Winthrop, because that is where they access our water sources the easiest, because they're right next to ponds. And then hopefully throughout time, and then they work well, which we know they will, but if they get enough support and we can make as many as we can in that time, that hopefully we can spread them to our town as well as to other towns. And the cool thing is that we can sell them to other towns, and Matter Trust only asks for 5% back. So say we sell them to a bunch of other towns, and then through that we can get some money as well, and they get money to help fund sending more machines. And then in theory, if other towns are interested, they can get their own machine as well and start producing them. And so through that, our town starting this small thing and becoming their first partner, we can spread it throughout the East Coast. Because right now it's Florida and then hopefully us once we get our machine. But we have signed an agreement, so we're just waiting on the machine at this point.
Wow. And waiting for 180 square foot space.
Yes. Yes.
So use this as a promotional opportunity.
Yeah.
Dear Holliston community, we need 180 square foot space to house this. This is awesome.
Yeah, basically, it's 180 square feet, one-car garage. You can even put in your garage or a shed, as long as it's a closed space, because there's going to be hair everywhere, and that people can come in and out, because hopefully we can get volunteers as well as people who need jobs, because it's an easy machine to learn how to use, and it's not that dangerous because you have like guards that you push it through, and so then that can open up more green jobs to the community, as well as kids our age who are seniors and hoping to get experience while giving back to their community, as well as it can be open to GCP students and National Honor Society, anybody who's interested.
That's awesome. So you need a shed, essentially, with electricity.
Yeah, with electricity.
At the risk of oversimplifying, this is so cool.
Thank you.
How awesome.
Yes.
And I have to say, they did this, a month? I mean, just one semester of work and learning, and it's just taken off. It's really, it's fun to watch and guide them through it. But this is all student-driven.
Yeah, and we got some of our main focus was from sending surveys out to the community. So I was all over Facebook and everybody letting them know, hey, fill out our survey. So we found that them thinking pollution-wise was their biggest concern, and we've also done cleanups around town. So we cleaned up by Fountain Pond behind Duncan, and through that we collected 4 carpenter bags, so 4 big trash bags. So as long as those miscellaneous, like there was a headboard and a pallet, all come straight out of the lake.
There's pictures of the cleanup.
Yeah. And then you can swipe through photos in that first grid.
Oh, right.
And you've educated a lot of people.
Yeah, so that's all the trash.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's incredible that you guys are educating others.
And it was kind of cool because we had one person who we didn't even know beforehand, but you can see in that picture to the right that he got into the water and started digging out. And as soon as we finished, we saw some wildlife returning back to the area, which was really cool. There's a beaver swimming around. So yeah.
Beaver's going to cause some havoc.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere besides your website where people find out about your projects, like the service learning event? Is there an event for your?
We have an Instagram and we have an email. This is not really, but that's where people can reach out to us.
So I meant not just for your project, but for all of the capstones. Like, do people have to go to this website, or is there another way to promote this amazing work?
So that's it for now. We will be having a celebration in late March. That will be.
That's what I meant. Something.
Yeah, we'll be putting out an invite to the community about it. We'll be inviting, obviously, family, friends, all of you, community partners, anybody that's assisted them in these projects. So more to come with that. Be on the lookout for that.
March 30th.
March 30th is our date. So we're excited.
And this is one capstone.
Yeah.
And certainly an exemplar of capstones. And we're psyched that, the younger students coming up see this, and whether they knew it or not, the interest grows because you see the older kids, students doing this kind of work, and it's real work, and these guys clearly know a lot more about this than any of us in the room, right? Which is awesome, right? Thank you. And so we're, our goals for moving forward, We would like, I mean, I dare say this because we can barely keep up, but we want to grow the program. We'd like to because we feel there are more students that are interested. We don't do that much outreach because we just don't have time, always. But we announce, we post, we connect with the middle school, and we do, what we can do. But we're hoping to grow it, not just in numbers, but also in quality, which I think we have quality. We want to maintain quality and keep it quality. We're hoping to get to some travel type, events, at some point when we can. And certainly, with all this in mind, we're working with admin right now to try to figure out ways that we can sustain this moving forward, right? And coordinate the program during the school day. Okay, so that's what we're hoping to do as we move forward. Okay.
Are you going to present for the program of studies night coming up in March?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. With students?
That's the plan.
Okay, because I just,
Yeah.
you guys are awesome,
Right.
but I think
No,
the
they're-
students
We know
really
this,
help.
Yeah.
No, they are, but I just think, I think the student stories are really powerful.
Yeah.
And
So we brought them.
right? And so we really, we'd love to see you more in the fall before kids start exploring other opportunities. But a program like this does certainly show that it's, more than just high school.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing you in March, too.
Yeah.
A couple of girls at our meeting today after school just made a point, we were talking about being able to do real world stuff and how it makes you not feel so helpless in the face of the stuff that we're bombarded with all the time. Like to know there's something even at a small level you can try to do. It just takes away the grief and puts hope in place. It's really just so cool how those things.
Yeah. Keep us posted.
Yeah.
I'll come back. Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
It's my son's house.
Yeah.
I have actually one more question. Am I remembering this or am I making this up? Were you looking at using MOOCs in your, was that you who
We
were
threw it out at one point as
that came up.
a potential way
online-
that kids could.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that ever came. I remember talking about it last year. That was maybe a possibility of places where you could go to get information, and that it was an opportunity for people who are incredibly motivated to access curriculum that's all free. I just didn't know if that was still on the table.
I'll say, we haven't, I think we've been so busy with
With what?
working so well. We still agree with that. I know myself personally, I've taken another MOOC or two since we talked last, and I still agree MOOCs are incredible for learning for everybody, and highly recommend it.
It's so funny because we did come up with that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot
It's,
about it.
things take over and you're full. So,
Yeah, it's such an incredible opportunity for people who are looking outside of their traditional boundaries, right? When you're really interested in looking at how statistics plays in with your environmental course, that's the kind of stuff that you can find. And I was just wondering. I remember you saying that last year, and I remember thinking, that's such a good idea. So I think it's a. Obviously, you're growing and it's going really well, but it's neat to have that option.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, and thank you for sharing Nugget with me today. Nugget, I was on the phone in my office, and Nugget walked right in to say hello to Sammy, and I was so happy to see him, so thank you.
Made my day.
Thank you for supporting this.
This is the best thing I've really heard in a very long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just are loving this. We don't know really, but when you're in it and you see what the kids do, we're really not doing any of what they're doing. It's so cool. We just sit there going, wow, you guys are doing the most amazing things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now we have to hear about your budget. Time to go. You have a very high bar.
I'm not even going to try.
I mean, after all that uplifting, morale boosting.
All right.
I want one of those mats.
I know, right? I can see the drain right outside my house. It's awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. Now, can you see all of us having a trash can full of hair?
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Don't put your hair in the regular trash can.
Anymore.
Your dog's hair.
Or like the whole floor is covered in
Discuss with us at it.
Of course, yeah. And I get to say, can I please have the hair back? What?
I know, but I don't see like one Canva there.
The Lulu comes in. Not because the dog is problem enough.
Sorry, you have, I'm just opening up the Canva version of my presentation, so.
Like we can't compost it.
I'm opening the
Which is what I would
Canva
say,
version
but, like,
because
we can't do that.
the Canva version is much better than, yeah, the PDF isn't gonna.
You really want to make a splash tonight for us?
Well, I
Thank
took a
you.
little time to put something together, so I might as well show you.
I'm excited already.
She's got to follow up hair.
I know.
Well, it's not that, don't get that excited.
Well,
Oh, you even
see that?
I like the way the
Did you see that? You should be paying attention. All right, here we go. Ready?
expectations are high.
Lisa, you're missing the animation.
That was amazing.
Was that the response we were looking for?
Yes, that was perfect.
Just making sure.
Anyhow.
to do animation on a presentation.
Well, that's why I'm showing you Canva, because Canva is a lot quicker to do it. You can do it obviously on PowerPoint, but Canva, Dan Cloud has been getting us to move towards Canva, so I figured I'd try it this time. It is a lot quicker when you're trying to add little.
Is there like a dancing Keith that we're going to see at some point, or no?
Not so much.
That's the next presentation.
Not so much.
All right, so I wanted to talk about what we're going to have in the budget process tonight, the rationale for the proposed budget, our priority needs tied to our strategic plan, our number one priority need. We're going to give you one priority need tonight specifically related to the budget process. Then we'll share some other district needs and funding sources, capital requests and funding, and then our overall request with the final numbers so you can see it all put together. So I'm not going to read all of that. I just want you to see that this is connected to our strategic plan, our mission, vision, and core values, strategic initiatives, and our commitment to continue this roadmap and sustain the work. So anything we propose tonight is really about the 5-year plan and the roadmap and a long-term sustainability directly tied to our strategic initiatives. You're probably getting sick of us saying that, but everything we've been doing is connected to that. All the PD work, all of our budget requests, capital requests are going to lay that out for a longer time period as well. So with that, our number one priority need tied to the strategic plan is the full-day kindergarten initiative that we put forward. I put forward a plan 2 years ago. We didn't have full-day K in, and on top of that, we had COVID hit. So we had 10% of our kindergarten population attending school half-day. The other 90% was paying for kindergarten. So not only was it an equity concern that 10% of our students were missing out on that half day of social emotional learning and all the academic pieces that would still happen in the second half of the day. There's so much that takes place during playtime, even if it's not an academic, it's still growing them academically. And I thought we need to fix this really fast because the community's suffering as well. Students are regressing more. So we were able to work with the town, and you voted to request ARPA funds. So we dedicated all of our ARPA funds that the town gave us, as well as ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds, to make sure that full day K happened. So this is now year 2. We're already seeing that we're moving in the right direction. Every child is in full day. It's been awesome. However, we still don't have a long-term sustainable plan. So this is why we really need to ask for us to get this appropriated now and not wait till we hit a funding cliff for it. So it's clearly an essential piece of early literacy and numeracy development. Every child should have access to free, high-quality kindergarten education. It needs to be appropriated, or else we could lose full-day kindergarten if we can't sustain it in the budget. And it will cost us, or it is costing us, approximately $650,000 per year to fund the second half of the full-day kindergarten. You can see on the side there, sideways, it's also connected to Arch 2, social emotional well-being, and Arch 3, teaching and learning, as to why it's so important for us to do. These are also some needs that we put forward in our priority needs discussion on, was it February 2nd? So you'll see that all of these are also tied to our initiatives. Under Arch 1, communication practices, we're implementing training and providing annual costs for new special education software, IEP, 504, and ELL. I have the amount there, and we're not asking you to appropriate that. Because we had set aside some of these ARPA and ESSER funds, we want to ask you in the near future to go back and ask the town to revote using these ARPA funds for different purposes, because we only have those funds available to us for a little over a year. So it is time sensitive, and they're one-time needs, and these are appropriate things to ask for that reason. So we would be using ARPA and Grant 180 for that. Arch 3, teaching and learning. We talked about the priority needs of having our pathway program at our transitions is requiring us to have more staffing in that area. We've increased our numbers significantly, and the students coming up from the middle school as well are projecting that we're going to have a long-term bubble go through. So we're asking to fund the special education teaching staff. Now, long-term, we will have to come back to you in a couple of years to get this back into the budget appropriate. But we're going to revisit it and see if it's still a need then, depending on when the bubble is. So we're not saying it's a permanent need, but right now it is a need, so we're going to set aside our ESSER 3 funds for that. Similarly, our ESL population has grown. You've heard us talk about that before. RAM's population is having a difficult time servicing all those students within the normal time period, having a 0.67 person. So we want to increase that position to 1.0. Again, we're not asking you to appropriate that. We're willing to use for the next year or so our ESSER 3 funds and then revisit that and see if the need is continuing or is this a short-term bubble going through. And similarly, the needs of students we talked about at the elementary level. A lot of our students were missing some of the multisensory needs and the phonemic awareness. We put Haggerty in. We talked about that in the past. But because we have some students that have come up to the middle school now that miss some of that phonemic awareness, we're training all of our special education staff. We've done this at Miller, we've done this at Placentino, and now we'd like to train the middle school staff, the special education staff, also having the Orton Gillingham, and that will cost about $20,000 of using the ARPA funds. Arch 3, teaching and learning again. Similarly, looking for more support. Some of this, again, we're trying to reassess, is this a short-term need or a long-term need? We want to see if students start to catch up, so we don't want to put this into the long-term budget plan yet. But we'd like to increase our tutor support at Miller 20 hours a week, and also a 0.5 math specialist. We've talked about some of the changes there as well, the literacy and numeracy in all the buildings with the regression that we've seen. We believe we'll start to catch up again now that we're kind of back on track, but we want to watch this for the next couple of years. So again, we'll use ARPA and ESSER funds for these. And the same bubble that we talked about at the middle school coming up with our ESL population. We've had a significant increase in our ESL student population at Placentino. That's where we've seen our biggest expansion of students coming in. And that position currently is a 0.5 position. We also have a 0.5 ESL tutor. So we're asking to increase the ELL teacher 0.5 to 1.0. And then that position will hopefully be able to now service the, is it 38 students at Placentino? Do you remember?
Yeah, that's
I think it was 38.
Yes. Yep, that number seems right.
Look at Stacy, remember.
I do. That's, yep.
And then Arch 4, talent and resources, which Chromebooks, as you know, is a capital request, but because the town has been really good about sharing the ARPA funds and allowing us to use these for our one-time needs. And then we've set aside these ESSER funds that are also one-time needs, and they're going to run out very soon. Rather than turn them back, this is a perfect opportunity to use some of these funds and not ask the town for these capital funds this year, because they've given us money. If they give us the money to appropriate for the full day K, then we will find a way to fund our other needs for the next year. And that way, I think it's a win-win for the town and for the schools to work collaboratively together. So we'll use that funding for Chromebooks for grades 5 to 8, which we normally ask for capital. And then also, we talked about devices for the computer lab and the music studio at the high school. And we've also talked about the high school auditorium lighting and dimmer. We talked about that in the fall, I think,
Yes.
I think it was in the fall.
Yeah.
And then we were trying to decide which direction to go. Right now, we think that auditorium lighting, if we did at some point end up building a new high school, we think it might be able to be shifted. We're not 100% sure yet. We still need to get more information on that, but right now we think it would be a worthwhile project to move forward with. So I already mentioned the Chromebooks grades 5 to 8 using ESSER 3 funds. That would be up $150,000. Computer lab and music studio at the high school, $75,000, and the auditorium lighting and dimmer is $250,000. So given the fact that we are looking at these one-time funds to set off these needs that are important needs, but our desire and our goal of making sure that the most important priority need is met this year, we're looking at our current FY23 appropriation of $38,845,279. Level services for next year would be adding $1,034,655, which is a 2.66% increase, would be our level services budget. But in order to get this tuition-free full-day K appropriated for next year, we would ask for the additional $650,000 for you to vote and then for the town to approve, which would be an additional 1.68% increase. So our total increase for the FY24 school year would be $1,684,655 at a 4.34% increase. And normally we don't ask for that increase, but that is why we would say we can fund the other needs, and so we're not going to go back for additional funding for capital this year. And the total budget for FY24 that I'm recommending is the $40,482,661. So I'll take questions.
So it's not so much a question, more of a suggestion, recommendation. For the community members who aren't following along closely, for whatever reason, I do think that we need to be explicit in why the ask for tuition-free full-day K, right? Because I can hear the arguments of, it's just kindergarten, it's just 2 hours, I paid that, I already paid it for my kids. Like, there's other priorities. Why would everyone agree to that? I just think we need to market it to the community a little bit, because I do think that's someone could look at that and say, seriously, why would you do that? And I'm playing devil's advocate. I understand why, and I sat through the priority meeting, and I appreciate and understand why we're here.
So the good news is, when we went forward with full day K using these one-time funds with our creative plan to try to get this, because it is such an important need for the entire community. It's not just a kindergarten need. The journey starts in kindergarten, but that early literacy and numeracy development is so critical, and we don't get the vision of the graduate and the high school student graduating in top honors and going off to some of the best colleges in the state or in the country without having them had a good roadblock and a journey from kindergarten on. So we know that, and the statistics are clear on that. When we started to look at the data for our kindergarten population, and I saw that only 10% of our students were not going to full-day kindergarten. 10% is a lot of students, but then I dug deeper, and that 10% of our students were some of our low-income students, and some of our students that were coming in with different cultures and maybe didn't know that even if they might have an income need, they maybe didn't have the language skills to understand that they could ask for help from us, or maybe the community, their culture might not have allowed them to ask for help, because we do try to give scholarships when necessary. But it really created a huge inequity. And then when I dug deeper and we did a survey from parents, we found that even though people were sending their kids to full day K because they knew how important it was, and if they didn't go to full day kindergarten, they might need to pay for daycare. But in addition, many of those parents, it was up to 64%, I believe, were saying, even though I'm sending my child to full day K, it's still somewhat of a struggle or a significant struggle to do so. So this was a community need. We believe Holliston is well-positioned socioeconomically, but there's still a lot of people that are struggling, and especially with what's happened the past few years. So financially, it's a critical need for families to not have to pay for this. At the time we started this initiative, only 31 total communities, including ours, in the entire state were not funding it. I think it's down to now the low to mid-20s of communities, so we were an anomaly in the district. And since we've moved this forward, I've had other districts come to me and say, how did you do this? Because we can't get our community to sign off this. So I was worried if we don't do this now, if we had to go back to the state and say, by the way, we're not funding full day K anymore, we're going back to half day and making parents pay. What I can tell you is our Chapter 70 monies would go down as well. Yep. When this happened, Keith and I weren't really expecting this the way it happened. It was a combination of COVID and then changes to the funding sources. But we had, I think, 220 students in kindergarten that year. And on paper, it showed us 110 because the second half of the day is being paid for by the full-day parents who are paying for it. So it looked like we went from 110 students to 220 that we're now funding. That made our Chapter 70 funds go up by 500 or 600,000, came back to us in the town. It comes back to the town, not directly to the schools, so that at the end of the day, the money is in the Chapter 70 fund, but it didn't get over to schools at that time, so that's why we need to come back and come up with a plan to do so. And I believe that the town is ready and willing and able to collaboratively work with us to get that to happen. We've had some conversations with the town administrator, so this is an opportunity for us to do the right thing for kids.
And on the other side of it is I did reach out to DESE to say, so what happens if a district goes up and then for some reason has to, for whatever reason, has to get rid of it? They said very clearly we would take that Chapter 70 back. So I don't want to say whether you give it to us or not, it's not going to be available for anybody else. So
it's a win-win for the community. Dawn?
I know you indicated that we're down to something in the low to mid-20s for communities that don't have tuition-free full-day kindergarten. How many communities do?
So what's it, 300?
there's 320 school districts, some are high school only, so say there's 280.
Yeah, I'd say high too.
Okay, and our surrounding districts offer this, correct?
I think there's only one community that I'm aware of in our neighboring communities, because they reached out to me, Wayland, to see what they could do.
So people understand the Chapter 70 funding. Because we have this full tuition-free full-day kindergarten program right now, the town receives between $500,000 to $600,000.
Well, it's really not because of full-day K specifically, but because our enrollment went up, because we were funding more students, so it looked like we got another 100-something students it's because they're now in our budget. So yes. The indirect answer was that we got additional funds because of the increase in enrollment related to full-day K.
And if we don't move forward with this initiative, then we would lose even up to $500,000.
Right, if we had to cut back and go down a half-day and fund full-day parents paying, yes, the money would have to go back to the state.
And then historically, as a school committee, we've been working towards this and having this on our wish list of budget items for what, at least 4 to 6 years?
Keep going.
I heard over 10 before.
Yeah, it's before.
Before I got here, I thought it was 10. And then
The year we thought.
Carol Emmons told me it had been going on for like 20 years.
Right, before I was even on.
The year that we almost did it was a year that we thought we were going to move from being a minimum aid community where you get a certain dollar amount from the legislature for the number of enrolled students you have in FTEs. That year, for whatever reason, again, the monies did not play well, and when the actual numbers came out, we were going to not go from a minimum aid community to being a foundation aid community. When you get the big check for the big adjustment, we were going to stay as a minimum aid community. So it paying for itself a year down the road went away. And year after year, I would review the numbers, and we wouldn't get it. I'll be honest with you, I hadn't been reviewing them with COVID and everything like that. So it was a pleasant surprise for us in doing that.
We are now foundation.
And now we are a foundation aid community. So.
And they have not updated that map. So there is a map of the state of Massachusetts that is color-coded, and back in 2015, I think the number is actually lower in terms of number of communities.
It could be. I found a presentation somewhere that had like 25 or 26, but I bet it is. And I think that was like last year, not this year. So
we have certainly been talking about that. But thank you for, that I understand why we're doing this.
And we're fortunate that the town supported us with coming up with, agreeing to the creative solution that we came up with to let's get this going somehow, and we'll figure it out as we go. And this is the time to seize the opportunity and go with it.
So in addition to the chorus of school committee members that have sat in their seats for the last 10 years before us, is there anyone here that would be opposed to this? This is something we strongly would like to move forward on. We discussed it in budget subcommittee, and we've looked at this for a number of years, but is there anyone opposed to this?
Any of us?
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Just kidding.
What's that?
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, I mean, pre-K is on the horizon.
And that
Springfield
was the
just
other
opened a
piece,
first
right.
free pre-K for all students in Springfield just this year in 2022.
And that was my
for 3 and
worry, that we
4-year-olds.
didn't even solve kindergarten.
Right, that's the problem.
Right
That's coming down the pike. So if we're behind on full-day kindergarten, we're adding that on top of it's going to be significant.
And it goes along, obviously, with our all the work we've done around equity, that every child should have FAPE, free appropriate public education, and it wasn't equitable without doing this.
Correct. And can we go back to the all funded with remaining one-time funds slide? So funding this year through ARPA and ESSER means that if we want to move forward with these the following year, we would have to incorporate them into our budget. But for purposes of getting to our number, which is the 4.24%, is that correct?
For the full number is 4.64, right?
Yeah.
4.34, sorry.
I'm sorry, the 4.34%. Because we're funding with ESSER and ARPA, it's not included this year enough. But if we were to continue with those initiatives the following year, it would have to work into our budget.
Well, let me clarify for some of it. So Arch One, the special ed program, we already currently have a special ed program. So this is the initial startup. We're transitioning over to Power School for special ed. So the first year is going to cost us $26,000. Year 2, it wouldn't cost us additional because we would get rid of the current one. We have to transition over, so that would be the existing cost. So that's neutral. The other teaching positions that we're talking about, we would be reviewing next year to see where our student needs are, where we're shifting. So I can't promise you they're going to be a long-term need. It could be, but right now we want to give us a little time to kind of sift through that a little bit. And then under Arch 4, that is all capital, so none of that would be coming back to you. So it's these teaching positions, and my hope would be in the following year to look at those needs and say, can we set aside, you know how we talk about favorability from year to year? We are seeing some retirements happen in the next couple of years, so my hope would be that I can offset those with favorability the following year as well.
So what I can see is that the Placentino expanded to ELL. That's probably
Placentino is probably going to be with us for, all the way up.
Right? Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah,
But
that's probably
we're not talking huge amounts, because we're not talking full positions on those, so that's why I really do believe, Keith and I are pretty confident that we could then look at the savings from retirements and then offset it the following year, and then it would be in our budget at that point, so we wouldn't be adding on.
So with the ARPA funds, you're just looking to ask them to recategorize what we had for free full-day kindergarten and use it for some of these items instead?
Correct.
Is that number come out to the same as what we were asking before, or is it different?
We haven't priced everything out.
I think we're very close, so we wanted to see, let's get through this part, because we still have time for that.
Yeah.
As long as we do that before the end of the school year, so that we can shift them over. We don't have to do that immediately, but we feel like we need to get the budget voted and move forward and make it, because I want to make sure that we are being approved by the town as well for the full day K funds before we now shift the other funds.
Right.
And we have gone through all this. Could we go to the slide that shows capital requests and funding? I just want to talk to the full committee about, there's no specific additional capital requests beyond the use of these ESSER ARPA funds. But something did come up today, and that was a presentation by, Terry Chamberlain coming to speak, and that also came up at our budget subcommittee meeting. So I also want to just talk to you about that, because we did bring up the concerns with the auditorium wall and water infiltration that's occurred there. At this point, we're in the process of obtaining bids and trying to determine what's going on with that wall, and then to what extent, when that would be a capital request. So is that something that we can, provide more of an update to the committee on March 2nd to see if that would be a capital request, whether it's the spring or the fall, the timeline of
I don't know if we'd be able to get any quotes for that by March 2nd. That's really...
Again, we don't know the solution ultimately, as we discussed the other day. We had another person actually come by and give us a ballpark today on a different solution, which would be basically doing the equivalent of New England Brickmaster, taking a mortar-based product and re-encapsulating the outside. Many of the things they said were true. Many were just not right. So I just want to get that right out there. This is not about bricks weren't sealed properly or things like that. It's the construction that was done from the roof piece, that these bricks, that when they did the roof, they needed to create space underneath the brick to put the membrane underneath it, which did not happen. So they raised the membrane up over the bricks. We've gone over this a few times. They raised the membrane up over the bricks, block the weep holes. The water has nowhere to weep when it gets through. That brick is not structural. It is a fascia. It is not meant to withstand the water. It was, when it was after the wall fell down, it was not put up correctly, and then during the construction project, it was not, the roof was not done correctly with that brick there. So that is not something that has happened. And we tried dozens of things. One of the walls we resealed, just hoping that maybe we can plug holes. Didn't work. We tried. I mean, we spent tens of thousands of dollars on that, so let's get that right up front. And also the whole piece of the drama costumes being musty has nothing to do with that. That's the way that they're being stored. We also have too many of them. They're not stored properly. That's, again, that's not related to that. Sorry, just not.
But
it's
unfortunately, we also, it's been brought to my attention many times that we have old set pieces all through the hallways, and we really do have to get rid of it. I understand why we have it there, but there's no storage area for that.
Right.
And most of the time, when you do a set, you set the set up, and then you break it down and take it with you wherever it goes, someone's garage, and then you bring it back to set up a new set. So we do have to remove that stuff. It is musty, but we have tested prior to this. We do not have mold.
No, and again,
with that change, a couple of years, we had that very humid summer, and we had a last minute, this room had to be closed for weeks.
and we actually tested back there and actually got nothing back there. So it's...
I don't want to mislead. We would not be, we know that this is a serious thing. We would not be having students in the building with mold. We have to test for that.
And when we actually started coming up with a mitigation plan for the water was when we had an indoor air quality assessment, because we were concerned about it. And while they didn't find anything in the air, which they didn't, they actually suggested that we take the ceiling out, the normal drop ceiling, and put ceiling grates in to allow the water to pass through. And so if the water's not collecting anywhere except on the floor, that's easier to mitigate, because you take your water extractor and you run it across the floor, and that's what it is. So that's the piece of that. Going back to the New England Brickmaster, the person who came in today and said, yeah, I probably with prevailing wage would be around $700,000. And so it's not an insignificant number, and it's not, and while he thinks it's the solution, I don't know that, and warranties aren't going to come with it. It's, they're not going to have warranty that what's going on behind the wall is going to last forever.
So I think we need more estimates and more assessments of it before we can do anything. That being said, if we did find, or someone could really give us a definitive, yes, we could do this and not at $1 million, and we're confident this is going to happen, we'll give a warranty. I would be willing to take that $250,000. We still need the Chromebooks for sure. We would probably forego the auditorium lighting, maybe the studio and computer lab, and try to wait till we get more information on this, and we could shift some of those funds over. So the number would be lower, and that might not end up being approved. We might request that for the October meeting first. We might not have time to get this in for the May meeting.
And Keith, I'm rehashing this just for the purpose of the committee, not because I feel like you didn't hear me. But we did, one of the things we have to figure out is at what point do we say, yeah, it's $1 million, but it's worth it because in the long run, it's probably going to end up being something bigger. Like the perception by the way things are managed, the perception is things are not being managed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the town in general, we're conservative on how we maintain things, and we do, old school Keith's, spitting whatever he does there with the wire. At what point do we decide, what, we need to just suck it up and just, what, put in the new wall, or, build a new facility, or do whatever. Like at some point we have to make the decision, do we keep managing it to help conserve, save money and not be, because by being conservative and fiduciarily responsible, the perception by the public is we're being we're being stingy, we're not taking care of things. And that's where it's frustrating, right, for everyone around. So at some point, I said to him the other day, $1 million is a lot of money, but if that's going to prevent us from a bigger issue down the road, then maybe we need to do it. I don't know. And again, I don't have all the expertise to say we should do it or not. And that's why we do.
And again, I don't either. The solution that I believe is the correct one, we can't find people to do, which is take the walls down. That's the one that's going to be $1 million, $1.5 million, probably easily. Take the wall down, figure out if we're going to put the wall, and then fix the roof properly, the membrane properly, so that the membrane's underneath where it should be, and then either put the wall back up, paint the concrete that's around it, that is solid. No water gets inside the auditorium, if you notice. That concrete casing is in perfect shape. Again, that would be my recommendation to go with, but we can't find somebody that can take on that type of job or is willing to even discuss it at this stage. So
why is that?
I think the job is too big and it'd be too restricting. I think because they think the number is something, why bother doing it, because we're never going to go for it. And it also takes a lot of man hours, if you think about it, to put up that many square feet of brick. You have to be a pretty large organization. It's not, your 3 guys who come and work on your chimney at all.
And some of those companies that would do a project that large are doing bigger projects, like
a school building.
Correct.
Right, exactly. So
So it would be something we would fix when we would do a school building project.
And could have been repaired in 2001.
Possibly.
But not necessarily if we're talking about it being adjacent to the auditorium wall. For the history of this, I think you can go back to the 2018 and 19 statement of interest where Brad Jackson prepared it and identified this as this wall, I believe, collapsed in 94, 95, and early 90s. It was rebuilt. And then this problem had been identified in that statement of interest in 2018 or 19. So it's been ongoing for a number of years. But to the degree that and I don't think it happens every time it rains, but when it rains hard, you will have buckets and trash cans. And it also, it's been a problem for a while. It's not going to, it won't solve itself. And to the degree, we're not talking about an area of the school that, we believe it won't be there in 2 years or in 7 years. We're talking about next to the auditorium. So we just wanted to make sure the full committee understands that this could be a potential capital request and it's being investigated.
Do we, excuse me, do we have a sense of when we'll know? You said we need more assessment, we need more information. Do we know when we'll have those assessments or information?
Again, it's just coming up with people to give us the solution that we believe in. We can put forward the New England Brickmaster solution, and I'm calling it that just because everybody seems to know what New England Brickmaster is. If I said it was a mortar-based, it's just I'm doing it for simplicity here. Do I think that could be a solution? Sure. If you got mortar on there and it didn't pull the bricks down, if it didn't do this, Dawn joked at Budget Subcommittee, we have to worry that the walls won't fall down. They go, well, that could be half our solution. Because the wall falls down, then I could start working on the membrane underneath it. It could, I just need somebody to take the brick away.
And we'd also need to do request for proposals because it's
Oh no, absolutely. For the price of this is a full bid out capital project. This is not a quick little $10,000 thing that we can do through quotes.
Right.
This is a long drawn out process.
But Keith, can you just be clear about, there have been things that you have tried to do to address it? Because I don't want the public to think that since 1994 and that went up, we've done nothing to address it except for put buckets under the wall.
No,
that's not true.
That is not true. We have gone to Frizin to see if they could redo the membrane somehow by taking out one course of brick, one small course of bricks, things like that. We've tried things like that. We've tried realigning or resetting the membrane up the wall in one place. That didn't work. Again, we've tried things that are more cost-effective solutions.
Short of $3 million to replace the roof.
Exactly. That's,
I'm just saying,
and that's the challenge. And if we started this project, we start going down this project when you say replace the roof.
Yep.
The roof on this building is now 22 years old.
Could be more.
The membrane may be viewed as there's a problem overall. We may not be able to patch it. We may be opening Pandora's box. And the idea of doing the membrane in that area could turn into the membrane in the entire roof.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be even entertaining ideas that are like $700,000, but we don't know if they'll work.
Right.
I think we should be considering ideas that, like, if we're talking about $1.5 million and that's what it's going to take to fix this, then I think that's what we should be talking about. I don't think we want to, I don't know, I'd feel really uncomfortable voting on $700,000, but we can't guarantee this will work.
Yeah.
But
Again,
then we're stuck with, I mean, I guess what happens then is if we basically rebuild the auditorium, then that's gonna be our auditorium.
Not necessarily.
Or-
This may not be the site. If they can't build a wastewater treatment facility here, this won't be the site. I will tell you right now, it won't be. Part of the feasibility is going to be the feasibility of the site. And if this site cannot handle a 21st century wastewater treatment facility, a new high school, not the, but a new high school would not be on this plot of land.
Yeah, and that's the thing, none of us know. Will the feasibility study say we can relocate part of the building to where the parking lot is and over that way and keep the existing blueprint of the auditorium and potentially the field house is a big talk, right? That could be. Or they could say, we have to relocate the whole thing. None of us know until we go through that process. So we could put the $1 million in and still find out that we have to tear down the no one's going to be able to answer that.
But I don't think we can let this, I mean, this is a miserable situation to be in, but I don't think we can wait 5 years. I mean, a newer renovated high school feels really far away at this point.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if we just want to kind of lay down that none of us can say for certainty what's the right thing to do at this point. You know?
So the reason for most of the people not touching it, could it be that if they started it, the cost could go higher?
Yeah, I think that's the fear is that they start opening it up. We're going to open up more and more and more. And then we're looking at now 2 million or 3 million.
Well, you're also looking at multiple trades too, where you're looking at a masonry trade and a roofing trade. Doing the equivalent of doing a brickmaster is a single trade. So that's where, over the years, when we talk about sealing it, we got quotes on that. You'll get quotes on single trades. To combine multiple trades, it's a much more complicated process. It's more of a project then, as opposed to something else, because you will be combining trades. You'll have to do the timing of it. And again, when you start dealing with roofs, if there's a gap in the timing, of when one thing comes down and one thing goes over, and it just becomes more complicated. That's all. Each trade you add to it. And again, it's having potentially a mason trade come back, or possibly a third trade to do something with the concrete, so we don't have a big gray blob on the top of the building. So.
And in electrical, they're doing rewiring a little bit. I mean, they must have some exterior walls for electrical.
I don't think so, actually. I don't think so.
It's like a no-win situation.
Oh, no, it's a horrible situation, which is why we haven't, when we have problems, we fix them. And again, the solution has never presented itself as outside of tearing down the brick. That's been the only solution that we've ever felt was the correct answer. We're looking at other solutions again, because we know the ceiling one didn't work, sealing the brick, because it's not big enough to cut. And again, when the rain comes in, it's wind-driven rain. So when the rain's not coming straight down, when it comes in any sort of angles, when it goes into the openings that are the weep holes throughout the structure, which is supposed to be there. Because again, it is not structural like a brick house. This is a fascia brick. So again, the water's supposed to penetrate it to go behind it. That's what's supposed to happen.
Didn't you say something about, what if we took the brick off and put siding up?
That's a possibility too. We would try to look for some sort of architectural siding that would look good. Again, that's another covering. We wouldn't have to take the brick off at that point. We would just attach the siding through it. So,
okay.
But again, they're all ideas. And at some point I'll be able to present them all to you, and we can choose a path and see if people want to spend the money.
No, I understand.
And thank you we want the committee to hear what the full conversation was, because it was, we
can be a water feature.
There was conversation, we were asking questions, we are.
Believe me, Keith has heard me say, what are we doing here? There's water, I was walking down the hallway, there's water, we can't have this. It's not like we don't care,
Thank you.
I say an indoor koi pond. Just,
See,
it'll absorb all the water.
I'm not
that's in
somebody who
there.
likes plants in the buildings either, because plants bring mold because of the water and stuff,
But
so I'm not a fan of...
calming. It'll be relaxing and calming. And
That's fine to put the koi pond outside of the building. I don't want to attract ducks either.
well, the ship has sailed on that. The ducks are coming whether we like it or not.
So we're just reviewing this tonight. The budget subcommittee is going to meet again.
On February 28th.
Awesome.
So if you have additional questions. and then we'll talk again on March 2nd. We'll talk again on March 16th, and we would anticipate a vote at that point.
I thought we were meeting March 1st.
No, February 28th.
February 28th is
We
our
talked
budget
about
meeting.
March 1st, so we couldn't do it until we're meeting. The next budget subcommittee meeting is February 28th at noon.
Yeah, okay.
We did talk about March 1st, Lisa, but then remember I forget what happened, we couldn't make it work.
Okay, that's actually good news because of office hours.
Office hours, yeah.
March 1st, I can't make it.
It probably was
so-
my schedule.
That was March
No,
1st, I can't
that's
make
okay.
it. Oh, okay. I can't make it either.
And just to also go over the level services number, that 2.66%, Keith, you factored in the 14% increase in out-of-district placements.
Correct. And the number's actually a little higher than when I presented the level services because we did have a student move in. But I didn't, since the student was not in a high-cost placement, we will not get the benefit of circuit breaker for me to be able to offset it the year after. So where we have absorbed the 14% through our circuit breaker reserve, or a portion of that 14% through our circuit breaker reserve for fiscal year '24, because we will get more money back the following year based on higher tuitions in '24. So in '25, we'll get more, we'll be able to replenish that account. I felt I needed to increase it because it's, at some point, I'll get nervous about how much we're spending in one time or reserve type money, so.
Can you give us an analysis of that next time?
Yes, I could, but I can't do it very clearly.
14% increase.
Yeah, I want to.
Oh, 4% increase.
I want to understand the
Talk
increase.
about that too.
The impact to our district specifically.
It's about $500,000.
About $520,000, and I passed that on to James DeArena Rosa for the legislation he's supporting
right.
to increase the reimbursement.
Right, but that's only one piece. So he said that he'd already supported the increase from 75% reimbursement to 90%, but not the multiplier, because that's where the rubber hits the road here. Because if we have a placement that's just slightly even under the 4 times the foundation rate, per pupil rate, then we get nothing. Right? So if the per pupil rate is 13 point whatever, multiply that times 4 is, quick math, somebody, 42 something, right?
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. The challenge is that there's only so many pots of money that they can call upon. And they've already absorbed the transportation piece at the same 75% reimbursement rate now. So every time you ask for $1 more, the way that the reimbursement is executed, it's just going to come from the transportation piece, because they do tuitions first, and if there's money left over, then they do up to 75% of your out-of-district transportation. So they're just going to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I'm not saying it isn't fine to do that. I don't think it's going to create any additional funding. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so I do know that.
In the one that the state rep is supporting, the change in how they reimburse circuit breaker, you don't think it's going to?
Correct.
Okay.
So we met with, I met with Senator Spilka and the Ashland, Hopkinton, and Medway superintendents. The 4 of us had lunch with her on Friday, and we talked about these, because she's very aware and obviously very supportive of education and doing her darndest to help support us. It's just, where's the money coming from? I mean, that's the worry. I think everybody realizes this is a problem. I just don't know how it's going to get solved.
And I find the formula very confusing, but there was a great breakdown in an MASC email that many of us received, because the MASC Legislative Committee is advocating for this change, including at that day of the Hill event, but in real numbers, because this made more sense to me. If you had an out-of-district placement that was $100,000, and that's very much a real number. In fact, you can go to the OSD site, and the out-of-district placements will range anywhere from $51,000 to over $400,000, right, for residential or day programs. So $100,000 is a real number. Right now, we would receive about $36,000 back a year later. Is that correct? A year later. With the change that they're advocating, we'd receive back about $54,900. So you can see how that could be impactful, especially when we're now dealing with a 14% tuition increase on those numbers, which could be anywhere from $52,000 to over $400,000.
And we don't even have all of the tuition increases in place. Some of them may come under 14%, right?
They may. We budgeted the full 14 just because in my history here,
If they can get it.
if OSD makes a recommendation, nobody gets less than that. They may do a thing called program reconstruction, where basically they say, we're providing this different service, we're addressing this different cohort of students, or whatever it is, and they make a proposal to OSD to saying, we need more money because of X, Y, and Z, and they have a hearing on it, and then from there, they get awarded the money, usually 100% of what they've asked for, just been my history with that. But yes, it's so, again, 14% may be the floor.
Well, thankfully, I suppose at least there does not include the collaboratives. So we have tech and accept, and that's not affected by this. I got confirmation.
Right, we already have their budgets approved.
We just don't have a lot of students there.
Right, unfortunately.
And many of the collaborators have gone up consistently higher than the OSD rate as well. Just so
good to know.
So.
So not all doom and gloom, but
they're trying.
Not all doom and gloom, but I'd still rather hear about hair mats.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Policy.
Oh, yeah, that's me. I have 2 policies for revision for you to look at, and we'll start with, what's up there? Is JBD?
Yeah, JBD.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to read the highlighted section that was changed, and the changes were based on updated guidance from the MIAA, which is the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, as well as guidance that we had received from the state regarding creating a safe and supportive school environment, student and family support. And we included those legal references down at the very bottom. So I'm just going to read the highlighted section. Where there are gender-segregated classes, extracurricular opportunities, or athletic activities, including intramural and interscholastic, all students must be allowed to participate in a manner consistent with their gender identity. And I think that's the only change. Is there any questions about this? I know we just updated this in October, but this came in after the fact. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the revision of policy JBD, gender identity support as presented.
Moved by Lisa. Seconded by Stacy.
Moved by Lisa, seconded by Stacy. All in favor?
Thank you. And the second one is policy JICA, student dress code. We had some discussions with Jess Beatty and the administrative staff about just including a little more language about what we have in the handbook already that kind of explains our procedures of how we manage any issues with dress code. I also noticed that we were supposed to put the legal reference on, and it wasn't there, so I added that this morning, so I apologize for that. I thought it was on there from before when we had the meeting, but it wasn't, so I just included that. So I'm just going to read the highlighted sections that we added, and then we can discuss that. At any time during the school day, if a student is wearing an item of clothing that is distracting from or not conducive to a healthy learning environment, parents, guardians may be contacted to bring a change of clothing to school, or the school will provide clothing if necessary. This includes, but is not limited to, clothing or jewelry displaying messages or illustrations of a profane nature, sexual connotation, violence, or suggestive statement relating to drugs, alcohol, or any illegal substances. Accessories that could reasonably be considered detrimental to student health and safety, chains, sharp objects, etc., and or clothing linked to and are associated with gang affiliation and activity. The student will not resume his/her regular schedule until his/her, I should say there, sorry. Just noticing that there. Clothing is modified. This dress code applies to all school days, including themed dress-up days. And the next paragraph, student, faculty, or parent guardian groups may recommend appropriate dress for school or special occasions. Students will not be prevented from attending school or a school function or otherwise be discriminated against, provided their dress and appearance meet the requirements set forth above. So I'm just going to amend that to say instead of his, her, it should say their.
Which one?
At the very bottom, I'm sorry, in the red section.
And there are 2 of them.
There's 2 of them, yeah. The student will not resume, it's the last 2 sentences.
Oh, there, yes.
Yep, it should say there.
Can I make another comment on this?
Sure.
All right, so I know that I was part of this, but I've thought about it more since.
Okay.
I'm curious about the sentence, clothing linked to and or associated with gang affiliation and activity. So I'm just worried that it may be less of a threat that we actually do have gang affiliations here in town, and more of a threat that someone may take this policy and sort of like profile a kid and say like, oh, you're wearing that bandana, I'm worried that's gang related, and sort of single out a kid, most likely based on a bias by that adult perhaps. I'm just a little bit worried and want us to sort of be aware of having that sentence in there. I'm not sure if that could be used to sort of like single out a student of color wearing a hoodie and a bandana, and the teacher sees that and says, I think that's gang related.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm wondering maybe you might want to think about language that specifies or names a specific game. I don't know, gang, I don't know.
Or we leave it out altogether.
Yeah, because this isn't, I mean, is this a current problem that we have?
I think it was just a more generic statement. Yeah, but it's in our handbook.
Is it modeled off of any, or is this up to date MESU's?
It's in our, well, it's in our.
We looked at other towns ones too. Some cities that had this, but
I mean, I'm comfortable with taking it out. I think that we can address that issue if it comes up. I'm comfortable with removing it.
I just think it could do more harm than good.
Here is
I also think it's subjective.
Exactly.
Because gang could be a gang of athletes.
That's
You
true
know what I'm
too.
saying? Like-
Okay. You're not wrong.
I think it's called a teens.
But that's
But yeah, it's too subjective.
specific definition of gang affiliation.
I get that.
Team-related whatsoever.
I get that, but that is vague.
I'm just saying, like,
But that is vague, and I do think I would.
We can strike it. I'm happy to strike it.
I took it out.
Take it out, and then we can always revisit it.
Yeah, if that was necessary, we can. Okay. So we're just going to strike that last part. We're going to end it where it says sharp objects.
Did you all have any conversation about the fact that it says school days? Should it say school, do you want to include school events in there at all? I mean, do these things not apply when they come to dances?
No, it does.
And then my
Trying to
other
see if it's
question
another
was, and this is extremely loaded before I even say it, but I was just wondering if there's, if you had any conversation about percentage of body that must be covered.
We did. We had
No.
quite a
Nope.
we had an extensive conversation about that. Extensive.
I can't even imagine how to handle that, but.
And we agreed that it is not appropriate for school officials to make those decisions for those kids. And we think that much more trouble and discrimination and things could be put in place as a result of those conversations. And also, like, even if we said, like, all children can't show X amount of their body, it's really targeted toward females.
Right.
And in that way, those policies, there's been a lot of, like, media around them and stuff are sort of archaic and sexist. And even if we don't agree with it and we wouldn't dress that way ourselves, we don't think it's appropriate for the school to be policing the way girls show their bodies.
So the upper part of this, which is not highlighted, is taken right from like what the law is basically saying we can say, and the other part that we just added was about what's in our student handbook, so people understand what happens during the school day, if that's an issue. So I guess it's more about we could say during the school day,
or at school,
or at school events. Because I suppose we could just tell them they have to go change to their car and change or something like that. Okay.
What
stops a child from turning up without clothes at school?
Can you say it louder?
What stops a child from turning up without clothes?
It's illegal.
What do you mean by without
To be
clothes?
naked in town.
Like to be naked?
So I know, I see what you're getting at though. So what if, for example, somebody, male, female, or identifying however, comes to school with a bikini on because it's hot that day? Is that okay?
Yes.
Is it disruptive?
Is it conducive to a healthy environment? Are you going to be able to do scientific experiments if you're wearing a bikini and not have a risk of burning or something like that? Possibly.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
No,
it feels like
I'm playing devil's advocate.
if we're writing policy that it should be able to, like, teachers should be able to lean on the policy saying, I think that you're not dressed enough, whatever enough means, for class, and be able to have some sort of foundation to stand on.
And same thing, or go with the kids who are wearing sweatshirts that are so baggy, it's dangerous to do a chemistry experiment because your sleeve is hanging. Like, let's.
Sure, like safety, yes. So if you're doing a lab with fire, you can't wear, over puffy sleeves. And you need to wear gloves and arm coverings. But it's too much of a slippery slope. Even wearing a thong bikini to school, if we put that in there, then the next thing I'm talking to a girl about her cleavage.
We can
And I hate it. You
say that because I don't want to point at me.
I mean, it's
I don't know. I feel like
it's not. We didn't think it was enforceable in an equitable and appropriate way.
It's more, it ends up being more of like a suggestion, essentially, if anything else. And I think it's in response to some concerns that people have expressed about current dress of some of our students. And we did have a very robust discussion about whether or not we would consider having school uniforms and whether that would eliminate some of those concerns. But I'm happy to start talking with parents about that, whether that's something they would like to consider for the district that we, but then there's issues with that. How do kids express themselves as individuals, and free expression, and that may not allow for that if we go with school uniforms. So
I think just speaking to the skin, because I don't want to really, this is a slippery slope, but what you would want to be careful, if you do make some statement about covering certain percentage, it's gender neutral. Whatever you say is a gender, and how do you say that? Like that percentage of skin would be covered at all times. I mean, that's where you get tricky, right?
But I'm sorry. I'm also looking at this, and I'm reading. God, I hate this topic because I'm on both. Because really, my head is on both sides of it. Like I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. So I can't come into school wearing my Bon Jovi "Slippery When Wet" T-shirt.
Sure, you can.
Why? It's sexual connotation.
What? Bon Jovi what?
"Slippery When Wet." That's the T-shirt. No, I'm.
Say it again. I didn't hear you.
No, I'm just. But I'm. Look at what our kids are wearing. Look what's out there at the stores. Like but it's even this is making me like.
So what's out there at the stores? Another perspective is. Stores market to sexualize children and teenagers.
Yes, they do.
It's not the children themselves' fault. So by disciplining or making these kids change, we're saying it's this 14-year-old girl's fault that the society and media and everything is putting this on the kids. It's not the kid's fault. It's not a discipline issue. We're not going to send you home for it. We hate it. I hate it. So I mean, you guys have seen me get
Stacey, I see your point, but you're going to make me change my T-shirt.
So here's the thing, and you know what?
They make you flip it inside out.
A very conservative husband of mine, I can totally see him buying that T-shirt because he really would not know.
Stacey, you would have to flip it inside out.
I'm just saying.
If someone said that was considered a sexual connotation.
I know we're trying, but I'm just looking at these and I'm like, well, you're gonna make me change for this, and this.
Yep. But that part is already in the handbook, by the way. We're just putting it on there so the people are aware of it. It's in the handbook.
But I don't see many parents objecting to it.
I don't either. It's just, for people to have awareness about what their children may be wearing or not wearing to school. Just calling it attention to it.
Just glad my kids are grown.
Oh, stop saying that.
I already dealt with it.
It's a tough issue, for sure. It's a really tough
And we
issue.
had
We talked a lot
discussion
about it.
So,
But then on the same hand, why do we have this policy if we're not making me change my shirt?
because we also want to make sure that people, can wear things that they should be allowed to wear, like religious headgear that they might want to wear, or a hijab, or whatever it is that they want to be able to wear without reprisal for wearing something that's covering their head.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about the red, though.
Okay.
Absolutely, but I'm talking about the red.
Well, what's in the red is actually what's currently happening right now and has been for quite some time in the district already. And it's more just calling attention, just adding it to the policy that people are aware of it.
Yeah, and you got to read a book too. You can't wear something that's disruptive, offensive, disrespectful, or discriminatory. I mean, that covers a lot of ground.
It's just letting people know what happens during the school day because we asked the question, what happens if a kid is wearing something that is considered appropriate? And Jess Beatty just sort of walked us through it and said, here it is, it's in the handbook. And I said, we should just put that in the policy so people are aware of it. So it's not like we come on, take a measuring stick and see whether their skirt is above the knee or whatever. Nobody's doing that.
I agree.
They're just telling them to flip their shirt inside out if they're wearing it.
Unless it's really, really out there, I don't think anybody will object. I can see the Bon Jovi point, but I cannot see anybody actually calling a kid out on that. I mean, I think we're just being...
Right, but I'm saying then, so why is it in the policy if you're not going to...
Because there are many degrees of sexual connotation, and I think there's a degree of judgment that administrators will take. Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, I guess you could say that that's a sexual connotation, but that's not I don't know.
Yes.
I wonder...
It's not as egregious as some.
I agree.
It's a good point. I just don't see... I don't think priorities would be calling kids out and actually, doing something about it are two different things. Enforcing anyways is hard part for most part.
However, I would feel comfortable, much more comfortable. No, we're off the Zoom. I feel much more comfortable telling young Stacy to put her Slippery When Wet t-shirt inside out
flip it
than
inside
I would
out.
looking at
You're
a
good.
girl's
Moving along.
chest, pardon my bluntness, and saying cover those up.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate for teachers and administrators to make those decisions for the kids.
And the law supports that, which is why I added the legal reference down there.
Yeah.
Okay. How are we feeling, everybody?
So you voted on this in policy.
Yes, we did.
Came forward.
Yeah.
I'm in support of this. Are we ready to take a vote?
Yes, I'm.
Yes.
Lisa's begging us to move on.
I just moved it.
So I would entertain a motion to approve as amended, policy JICA, student dress code.
Moved by Lisa, second by Dawn.
All in, oops, sorry.
By Lisa, seconded by Dawn. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
everybody.
appreciate your perspectives, everybody. Thank you.
Back to Susan.
Well, since we have our winter community newsletter going out tomorrow, I'm going to save all of the updates that I have for the newsletter.
Oh, good.
I put a link to the priority needs presentation. I put a link to our FY24 budget presentation. And then I know Joni has put a lot of updates for hers, so stay tuned. You'll get to read all about it tomorrow and get home earlier tonight. How's that?
That sounds great.
Excellent.
I hope it's a Canva.
Well, I did tonight's presentation, so it is. You are correct.
Hi, we completed our ELE audit on Monday. We had our interviews, and I worked with Desi on that, and then Jess Beatty was able to complete the tiered focus monitoring on SPED and civil rights on Wednesday. Our last professional development day, half day, was on February 8th. Very briefly going to tell you what was done on that day. For UA staff, for both Miller and Placentino. World language teachers worked on the biliteracy pathway for elementary schools. Music and band teachers collaborates together on curriculum support work for students selecting a band instrument. Our visual arts teachers work together on articulating curriculum and preparing 2 school-wide murals. PE teachers worked on planning common assessments per grade to be implemented this year. Library was working on Stage 1 UBD documents. Our health teachers were working on Stage 1 Health 5 documents and preparing for the upcoming puberty units. In Placentino, all other staff worked on structured literacy, and the counseling department at 3 of the schools, not the high schools, worked on modules together. At 3 of the schools, not the high school, basis, rest stop, and network teachers worked on continuum alignment. Our nursing staff at all levels worked together on Narcan training, nursing forums, and spring newsletters. At Miller, our 3rd grade teachers worked together on ELA writing prompts, writing a stoplight paragraph, and implementing strategies from Bill Atwood, a previous professional development. Our 4th grade teachers worked on social studies together, scope and sequence, identifying power standards, developing essential questions and common assessments. Our 5th grade ELA and social studies teachers worked on core lessons, current writing assignments, continuing with the Bill Atwood strategies. Our 5th grade math and science teachers worked on analyzing STAR data, student learning, and professional practice goals. Digital literacy teachers at Miller worked on Stage 1 UBD documents and aligning the curriculum in grades 3 through 5. At Rams, the non-UA teachers worked on UBD understanding by design curriculum work. It was facilitated by curriculum leadership and admin. They broke out into grade level department meetings then, and then they finally worked in their grade level departments. And finally at the high school, other than the nurses, they worked with Abby Benedetto on Vision of a Graduate. So we had a full day.
Wow.
Yes, you did. A full day and a half day.
That's right. So thanks for everybody for their hard work.
Thank you.
And Joni, the next PD day is also a half day, right?
Correct.
And when is this?
March.
Sorry. We've had our 3 full days already.
That's okay, I can look
I
it up.
should know that, I'm sorry, I don't know that.
That's okay, I can look it up. Thank you.
March. I'll look it up.
Is it the 8th?
I can look it up, Joni, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think it's the 8th.
The 8th?
Does that sound right? It's a Wednesday?
Sounds
Wednesday, March 8th?
Was it 4 weeks apart?
No, it's not the 8th.
Is it the 17th?
Sorry, I should know.
I'm sorry.
The 10th,
Oh, the 10th.
and it is building-based.
Which is a half day.
It's a half-day building-based
It's a
professional.
Friday.
That's what I meant. When was it?
It is obviously a half day.
So, Keith?
Great, thank you. Keith?
I don't know if you all have heard, but there was a bridge issue on this
Funny, not funny, right?
that we had a few challenges with, to say the least. As you know, we've had a little bit of a rough couple of days. It was good getting back down to the schools again. Not to say it's 7 in the morning, but it's okay. I do want to publicly thank Tim Holmes, Heather Yates, who was his on-site manager, and the 15 drivers who drive for us. They were absolute rock stars. They took the changes that I made, that Heather and I then reviewed via text till about 9 o'clock on Tuesday night, and took them and went with them and trusted us that we could have help them get through it, and they did. Both days, no Miller buses were later than the start of school. A couple were later than they were normally there, but again, we can tweak things as we go along. The high school only had 2 late on Wednesday and 1 late today, so again, some tweaking will be available, but again, reasonable. And I mean late, not 30 minutes late. We're talking 3-4 minutes late type of thing. Placentino had different buses late than I really expected, I'll be honest with you. But I think there was an unintended consequence or benefit to the dead ending of Woodland Street, which is there was less traffic on the road on Woodland Street. So everybody who got near the school was going to the school. So our buses were able to get on campus and get off campus without having to slow down for people taking a left or people cutting in here or taking, it just ended up being a much simpler process. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing, don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending that at all. The gray hairs have not been a good thing. But that being said, again, the drivers, if you see a driver that's driving your child, thank them. I have, actually. I've reached out to them via their radio and thanked them all on Wednesday. But again, again, we're going to keep plodding through this as we always do. Tomorrow's another day, and we'll reassess the week we come back, and if we have to make some changes to routes because buses are consistent with it on particular routes, we will. Unfortunately for some people, that'll mean, possibly our first run of the day, this bus may have to go earlier, but, until this situation is resolved, it's not something we would do any other way, so.
And I don't think you'll get a true feel, like this week's a little funky because of before vacation.
Absolutely.
Which, blessing in disguise, right? Because we know that people leave a little early.
Because what's important about school. So.
No, I'm just saying. So, and hopefully next week, maybe some discussions can happen with the other departments about how to better support you. St. Mary's sent out
yes, I saw
a message asking people not to park on Elm Street.
That was a recommendation of mine. Sorry.
HPD is putting up the signs.
I will say the town administrator, DPW department leaders, our chief and fire department, they've been very good about keeping us in the loop, inviting us to meetings, so we've been able to voice concerns, and they've been trying to respond.
And we've made little tweaks in the things they've done. Like for the first day, I felt that the signboard on Woodland Street couldn't be seen from Elm. So this morning, the highway department moved it 40 or 50 feet back. I mean, we've worked very well together. What I've discovered over the years, being here forever, a lot of these crises, bring departments together because you know what, the petty differences that may exist go away, and it's just, truthfully, it's not that it's fun to have these crises, but it reminds you that everybody is working together on things. So no, it was a very good exercise. It's not an exercise, you're really going to keep doing it. It was a good
problem solving.
It's worked out so far, and again, you're right. I mean, we're not making any assumptions yet because things can change drastically. Like today, Mike Woods went up and he tried to move cars off of Elm Street for a period of time. And just again, we're trying to figure out what things do we have to adapt and adjust to make this a success. There's still talk going on about whether or not first they can come up with a repair that'll open up one lane. I have a concern or a question on whether one lane might make our situation worse, not better. Right. Because more traffic will go down there and it's going to get stopped, signalized stopped. And that may back up people on Woodland. I may be in worse shape. So we're working through this. I mean, communication is daily. I mean, with different people, and so, but it's been fun. No, it hasn't been fun. But no, it's again, we're just working through the problem. We addressed today's problem, the morning for this route's problem type of thing as we go along. So
Can you
thank
clarify?
you to Mr. Boucher as well for being hypervigilant and helping us.
And we passed each other this morning after at the Rams run, and I was like, why is he coming this way? That's not the right way. So thank you, Keith. Can you clarify though? Because I was wondering. So we put out the safe routes to school map, etc.
Yep.
The road is deemed unsafe by Mass DOT. For cars and pedestrians, or just cars?
Just cars. The sidewalk will remain open until they start construction either on the repair or on the replacement. So for the foreseeable future, it's going to be open.
Okay. But still, people, it's been a relatively mild winter.
Yes.
People really should consider those routes dropping their kids off somewhere other than the campus.
And our partners in the community are allowing that to happen. Tina has been very good about leading this Safe Routes to School effort and has made these, partnerships that we're going to be able to take advantage of. So,
Yeah.
which is why we included in that. Why I included in my message was
Yep.
to again, here's an option. There's, again, it doesn't be credit to us. This is somebody else who's putting it together and it's helping us.
That's what Tina
Why
said.
wouldn't we
Yeah.
advertise it so for
Yeah,
them?
no,
So,
which is helpful. And we talked about it a little bit at the Traffic Advisory Committee because we had our meeting
oh, so it's your guys' fault.
yesterday morning, and we were just also trying to just, conversing like what else could,
Right.
Could buses go down Linden and drop kids off?
Yes,
We would use Linden somewhat. We're using Linden more. Had to make a little adjustment on Linden this morning, but that's a different story. But no, the biggest challenge I've seen right now is the increased traffic on Washington Street. This morning, it took me a while. I decided to go the other way down Washington Street just to see what the difference was. And I basically got to Highland Street and stopped.
Yeah.
And inched my way, and I can't cut through Mudville anymore, and inched my way. So I didn't make it to middle this morning at the time I wanted to. But it was still good information that, Washington Street is right now a parking lot from Highland east at around 7. So we just have to, again, work with the town. And again, they don't want that either, obviously. And hopefully people will find other routes. And, maybe people from the southern part of town are going to have Fisk and cut through Sherburne. And maybe people who are on the western side of town are going to jump up to 135 or something, go through Hopkinton or, take Ivy or Olive, excuse me, not Ivy, Olive, so.
it still hasn't been as bad as when they were doing the road work.
Well, again, that was
right.
completely,
Yeah.
I mean, that was
That was the worst.
that was a bad.
We also have new sidewalks, which helps too, though.
True. I mean, again,
The more sidewalks we have, then the kids can use those and ride their bikes they want.
and again, this is all, and a lot of this is about, again, asking the community to act in a communal fashion. I mean, it's about everybody pitching in and do what they can. If you have a neighbor that the two of you normally drive separately, this is the time to carpool.
Yeah.
And again, because it's getting cars both off the road, it's improving our carbon footprint, there's a lot of reasons to do it. But, again, if this is what's happening, then, take advantage of it. Make some new inroads on paths.
Well, thank you, and hopefully you get a little rest next week.
Or people
Dare I ask a bad question, which is repair replacement? I mean, this is something we're going to deal with for months, is that correct?
Yeah, right now, they don't know if they're going to be able to go down to one lane.
Okay.
The initial guess would be that if they can get approval and permits and order a prefab bridge, potentially by August. I mean, that's the hope, that it'll be no later than August, so that we would get it done in that month and have school open at the end of August without having to deal with this. But again, this is all preliminary right now. We don't even know how smooth it will go.
And again, to do a repair, just to get us to when the bridge is replaced, because repair leads to replace. The repair would be about so that you can open up the road somewhat into the summer when they'd have to then tear it up and put the replacement in.
They might.
I don't want to say that how many dollars is it worth to do that. That's not a decision that this board's going to make, or I'm certainly going to make. But it's again, if we can get things to operate in a fashion so that, children are getting a full day of learning, then, you know what? We're not the pressing issue. Then they have to determine, does the traffic flow need this to be open? So,
There's no quick fix.
there is no quick fix. No, this is getting a prefab bridge designed, getting a prefab bridge ordered, getting a prefab bridge. If I keep saying prefab, I'm eventually going to say it wrong. A prefab bridge built, delivered, installed. I mean, there's a lot of steps in this process. So. But,
You should get Mary Greendale on it. She got the 8-arch bridge rehab.
well, that was what I was saying. The bridge was already there, so that's it.
Yeah, but she got it rehab, really.
I did ask the question whether or not the bridge could handle a bus, so we could maybe run the 8-arch bridge over the bus, a bus over the 8-arch bridge.
Sure. You used to,
was told
used to
that.
have trains on it. Why not?
Exactly what I said. I said if it can handle a train.
Yeah.
That was not received.
No.
That was not received well, we'll say. So,
I would contend that a bus full of children is going to weigh less than a locomotive with.
I think they were worried about the
10
people
cars.
possibly walking on it.
Fair enough. I mean, that's.
They
fair.
might have, there might have been a little,
Fair.
conflict there. So, jumping on my next thing, the February financial reports in your packets. Just going quickly, the projections up to 69,000. It's basically, it's 26,000 or so better. It's basically due to our ongoing issues with staffing. I only take these in chunks, so this is the next chunk. Some of the staffing's savings are being offset by increased sub costs. I mean, this happens every year, whether it's who leaves or what's going on now. And then the addition of move-ins, so from out-of-district placements. So, so it's just quick and dirty, or quick and clean, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
Testing and assessment, why is that running so hot?
That's due to, that is the place that the STAR assessment is in. This is because, and actually I've got to do that, that's where the STAR assessment is. We had put all the technology funds into basically one account on a district-wide basis. We're spending them out of other ones. So I've got to move some budget money just so it doesn't stand out like that.
Yeah.
But that was planned. We're not running over because of that.
It just looks scary.
It looks bad.
What really looks bad is the lower part of the out-of-district placements and private tuition. That looks kind of ugly. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Sarah, did you say something, Tom?
No, I'm just finished. I don't think there's any.
All right, personnel. Data system specialist?
So we have had the data system specialist position in place, but there had been some changes made. So we're bringing this back for you to, the highlights there are some of the things that we've added to this position. We talked about how our current data system specialist has been doing the website, being like a webmaster for the district, so we added that to the job description. So we just were bringing it back for you to vote to update the job description as noted here.
Where is this person going to be in the central office?
So currently we have this position already, and the person that is in the position has resigned effective March 4th to a different district closer to home. So it's a replacement. It's not a...
Right, I just wanted to know where they were stationed, essentially.
Yes, central office,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And so the yellow is the only...
Yes.
Okay.
So do you want a motion to approve it, or?
It's probably non-substantive, but we're just bringing, so yes, I would say just for safekeeping, that's...
So move to approve the data systems specialist job description as presented.
Second.
Moved by Stacy, second by Cynthia. All in favor? Thank you. Coding club. Excuse me, stipend.
So if you recall, I don't know if it was 2 meetings ago, or was it, maybe it was longer, but we brought up a number of new positions or stipended after-school activities that were brought to our attention last June. Unfortunately, the coding club was not brought to our attention. I'm told that it was piloted last year and has been in existence this year, but we didn't get it shared with us until well into the school year starting. We did, however, have an opportunity to meet with the union and were able to negotiate factors for it. I did say, though, that even though we can negotiate it, I couldn't promise that we could move forward because we've added so many other clubs, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. It's not a very costly club, so Keith can actually give you the amount, which was about $1,072.08. And there were how many students who were in there?
12 this year, 20 last year.
So 12 students are being part of this club right now. And it's really a matter of, we got the information so late in the season, but I was told it was piloted last year. So if somebody wanted to make a motion, we could move it forward. I did say if we couldn't do it tonight because of the timeline, that we would do it in spring for next year. We'll move it forward in the spring.
Dr. Chris, can you just review over what the process is supposed to be? I just feel like this is something that keeps coming up. This is what, the 5th or 6th time we've had another I'm not having a problem with us having, clubs and activities that serve our students. I guess I'm just concerned that we're doing this throughout the year instead of doing it in a process which makes sense, which is at the beginning of the year or the end of the year to process it for the next year. I know last year we had the chess club had piloted, and then they came back and said, can we be a club? And that happened, but it goes through a process with the principals, and I just don't understand why we're kind of, this is the third meeting we've had where we're talking about a club. And then on the other end of it, if we're adding another club, what are we taking away? Because we haven't been able to negotiate, and that may be part of the collective bargaining discussion about how we manage clubs and how, what we should be paying for them and what, you know what I'm saying?
Sure, so why don't I read what the process is in the
Thank you.
contract. It says, for extra pay positions, the proposed activity shall be described in writing to the principal. The principal will acknowledge the receipt of the request and give a written opinion within 15 school days. The principal may then submit the proposal with his recommendation, their recommendation, to the superintendent. The principal may then approve a trial period of 1 school year, which would have been last year for any of these. At the end of the trial period, a recommendation must be submitted to the school committee through administrative channels for the initiation of the activity on a continuing basis, and then factors will be negotiated. So what should have happened is last spring, I was notified that this club was being recommended to move forward. I would then come to you and let you know that we are recommending, or the administration has recommended this club. Would you like to approve it? And then I would meet with the union, actually Mr. Vidayan had been doing that, and then negotiate the factors. Then in May, June, we would publish or post all of the open stipend positions so that people could then apply for them, and then we would determine that it would run based on who's applying for it. So there's a lot of missing pieces that didn't happen here. What we've done since that, because this was, I think with COVID, we had 2 years with no clubs being proposed because things weren't happening in the usual way. So I think that's why we had a huge influx, and we weren't able, because we got this influx in June, we weren't able to plan and budget for those accordingly. So because of that, we've met with the union and we put together a flow chart of that process, and we've also agreed to some dates so that in October we would hear of any new piloted programs. And then by March, it would be recommended to move forward. That would give us time to come to you, then negotiate the factors. And then, to your point, we would look at all of the clubs that are running and see which ones can we afford to run, because clearly, if we add on clubs and don't look at some that need to be deleted, we may not be able to fund them all, and then we...
Because we have to budget for that.
Or we just budget for more. It might not be a matter of...
Right,
whatever.
we have to put a budget for it.
But I think everybody, I'm speaking for myself, but my assumption with my colleagues is we wanted to support all of this for the students. We understand that we've been through COVID and the pandemic, and I think we have all tried to give each other grace. But quite honestly, my grace is receding a little bit, and I think now that you have this document, I would hope that next year we don't see this same, scrambled process. Like, can we follow the process and do things the way we need to so that we can actually budget appropriately and really do the things we need to support our kids? But quite honestly, I am going to say I'm frustrated because this has been like the third or fourth time that we've had this conversation. And so let's button it up and move forward,
So I feel really confident that we, moving forward, will have dealt with this problem and it won't happen again, but...
Yeah, so as I understand it, this was not on the list that came to you in June. So none of these clubs were on that list.
This one...
Just this one.
Like the ones that you just...
This one, and there are a couple of others that I didn't hear about that I did not bring forward to because I didn't hear about them until December. This one was mentioned to me in the fall. I don't know the exact date, but I never received a proposal or details about it until December.
So I'm happy to make a motion to approve it. In my motion, though, I want it on record. This is not precedent setting, that we will follow the process moving forward, and we will stop interrupting the normal flow of things, and we will do it as written in the contract. For that, I would approve this club.
I'll second that, Stacy.
Moved by Stacy, second by Cynthia. All in favor? Thank you. All right, subcommittees. Communications?
Office hours. Okay, so this is what I have. Wednesday, March 1st, 8:30 to 10 at Coffee Haven. I have Stacy and Cynthia. So I originally had Minnie. Minnie, I'm taking you off of that one. Can anyone else do that Wednesday, March 1st in the morning?
I can't do March 1st.
You can't? Or you can't?
As of now, I
cannot. Okay, I thought you were nodding your head. So does anyone else want to be added to that list?
School calendar?
I can't do that
Okay,
first.
I'll put myself down as an alternate, because we really only have 2 people, but I'll be a third just in case something,
He's when he gets COVID or something.
The next one we have, so we're gonna do Saturday, I had March 4th or 11th, we're gonna do Saturday, March 11th, and that's Amanda, Lisa, Catherine.
Yes,
All good, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the Zoom, we have probably more people than we need. Wednesday, March 29th, Zoom at 7 p.m. I have, so Dawn and Minnie are both on that one. And then I had Amanda and Cynthia question mark. You guys are already doing one other one. I don't know if Amanda or Cynthia, either one of you have a burning desire to also do a Zoom office hours.
I'm fine to do it or not do it.
I don't care one way or the other.
Okay, do you want to arm wrestle over it, or?
So March 29th is 7 p.m., correct? For Zoom?
Yeah. All right. So I'm flipping a coin. I'll put down.
I'll do it. I like doing.
Oh, okay.
I like doing
All right.
office hours.
All right.
I like it too. That's why I was a
so
little
this is what,
sad.
I'm not putting our names in the newsletter, but I just want everybody to be aware. So I am putting the dates in the newsletter. So that means that, we have to make sure we staff these things. So
9:30.
Wednesday, March 1st, Wednesday, March 1st in the morning, again, 8:30 to 10. That's Stacy, Cynthia, and Lisa. Saturday, March 11th, 9:30 to 11 at Coffee Haven is Amanda, Lisa, Catherine. And then the Zoom on Wednesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. is Dawn, Minnie, Amanda. Okay? So that is going into the newsletter, not your names, but the office hours are going into the newsletter. Do we want to advertise them in any other way? I mean, do we want to?
I think that with our next newsletter in March, we probably won't be doing the link in that. How are we getting this link out there?
The Zoom link?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Lisa
To set one up.
set one up, just saying we do meetings.
But since we'll likely get a newsletter out on March 16th, maybe we include the link, Zoom link for that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In that newsletter.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But,
Okay. All right, so that's all I have for communications until we did meet. So this is what we discussed. And then we'll do the newsletter under new business.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Policy?
Our next meeting is March 9th at 2:30 p.m. in central office.
Budget?
Our next meeting is February 28th at noon, remote. And I kind of went through our budget subcommittee meeting when we talked about the superintendent's recommended budget, and we've been, that's really what we talked about. We went over briefly in FY23 budget update. We went through the budget impact of the 14% tuition increase to out-of-state district placements, and then right, the potential capital request.
Great. Thank you. Superintendent's evaluation.
Yeah, so I sent you guys the schedule and the form that we're going to fill out. Just, I'll probably say this at every meeting, but March 24th is going to be a real and a hard deadline for filling in this form and returning it to me, so that the superintendent evaluation subcommittee has enough time to summarize all of the comments. Since I didn't do this at the last meeting, I'll just talk about the schedule. So March 2nd is going to be the school committee meeting where Dr. Pesca presents on her progress toward her goals. And that's going to be really the bulk of the information for you to draw upon in order to fill out the March 24th form. So then March 24th is your deadline to return that Google form. We will have 2 subcommittee meetings so that we can put all of your information together. That'll be April 4th and April 11th. And then our goal is to have a draft summary ready for the entire school committee by April 14th. So everyone got the Google form, I assume? Yep. Any issues, problems with, it's very simple.
I did email you. I was just asking whether or not, do we have to put proficiency or not proficiency?
I don't think we did proficiency. Does anybody remember? I don't remember us doing proficiency the last
Ratings.
time we did it this way. The last time we did.
Let me do you mean for a formative?
I don't think so.
But I think on a formative assessment, you end up having to give a proficiency rating, don't you?
I think so. I think we have to give you an overall rating, so that's why.
But not for like each thing.
But not for each
just
strand.
One.
I have to think about
just
that.
overall.
I think it is overall for that.
I think so too.
I think
That's
so.
why I just questioned it.
All right, so then I will have to amend the form potentially. All right. I will.
Not necessarily, we can just include that in the body of the.
I mean, the thing is, if you give it, it would go to our data systems specialist, and they would just upload the rating to DESI. So as long as you put it somewhere and get it to
Right,
us.
so it just has to be in there somewhere. So in the final report, we'll say, whether we rank proficient or.
Right.
It just has to be in there, our final report, I think. And we can just put it in the body of those bubbles, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking.
Unless you don't want to. Trying to make less work for you, not
I
more.
appreciate that. I'm going to look at the form. Hold on, let me just call up the form really quick. So we've got each of the 4 areas, and then I've got commendations, and I just wish I had one thing in here that was.
So you don't have to resend it to us, you can just add that bubble down at the bottom.
No, I can't. This is my form. I can't edit this, I don't think.
Well, why?
Without
It's your
resending
form.
it.
You don't have to resend it, it'll just update automatically. It's a
It's
Google
not.
form.
No, it's not like a Google Doc though. This is my copy of it.
Okay.
So I would have to resend you guys the form, and then. All right, we will ponder this and figure out what the best solution is.
Okay, so school start times, operations, so there's a bridge thing happening, so it's a little, I think we're in a better position to start talking about traffic again, because now we know I don't want to speak too soon, but it seems like we're in a pretty good position. So we will move on to having another meeting. Now the roof is not falling down. I should not have said that. I meant it as a metaphor. But, yeah. Anyway, traffic's going well. That's what I meant.
How many do you need, Minnie? The calendar.
All right, school calendar. It's coming around.
So, we took some of your suggestions from the last time we met, and there you can see.
Ooh, new colors.
Cynthia, the colors that you.
That was not the focus. A little bit that was not the whole focus.
No,
but
I do recall that some of the weekend holidays, because some of them, as you know, Rosh Hashanah and Diwali had fallen during the school week sometimes, so you asked us to put those on the weekend to show why they're not days off now.
Yeah.
So Lisa, thank you.
When you put
Lisa
the conferences on, thank you.
And so we still might be missing a couple of things, but we've got, I think, the bulk of things here right now. We also, we talked to you that we were going to meet with the PD Council to get feedback. We did talk to them. We met today. So some of the feedback we have gotten are, one of the things that I had concerned about is time on learning and trying to increase that for students by minimizing the half days and disruptions to family. And we agreed that we're going to leave it as is as far as the full days and half days for next year, but that with the PD Council, we're going to take this time to put together some surveys and survey families and staff next year to find out what makes the most sense, knowing that nobody ever is going to be in full consensus no matter what option we put forward, but with the goal in mind of having equitable access for students and trying to increase time on learning or have as much robust learning opportunities, that we would revisit that next year, and then next time we come back next year with a calendar, we may alter some of the PD days at that time. So we still have not made a decision. We're kind of waiting to see on the 24th. I think it was Dawn that brought up on January 24th about the high school exams. And yes, they did say that that could pose a problem. So we may end up moving that in a future reiteration. Okay. I don't know that you have to vote on these things. It could be that we're going to fine tune this and bring it back. The most important things that you did vote on were the start date and the end date. So I would like to add this to my newsletter for tomorrow, just as this is the draft, just so people know the start and end date. And other dates are subject to change, and we'll get that updated as the year goes on. Because one of the things we don't know right now for next year are the MCAS dates, right, Joni? Is that what came up? And I think it was, what was the
potentially could be March 28th.
Right, and if we ended up, we may end up having to revisit the 28th for that reason. I think that's what the one we talked about. And the other piece that we talked about was, we've got the full day, February 7th PD day, and a lot of the training that staff go into the fall helps us with the choice day that, like we did January 27th. If that were a snow day, what would be our backup plan? So my suggestion would be, these are things that we would tweak as we go, because those are unforeseen things. But if we had to forego a full day PD on the 7th, we would potentially transfer the 28th to a full day and then make up the half day later in the year.
Right. We were also talking about looking at January 24th PD day due to when the high school exams were. And I'm sorry, did you also mention we were going to look at the September date?
So we did have a suggestion for September that we want to bring back. Some of this we want to bring back to the principals too, because sometimes they know something that we don't know, and we have to have them look up before we make a worse problem. But we had, with suggestions from staff, that the Tuesday of August 29th would be normally a PD day. We moved that to the Friday so we can get school open, and then we'd have a 4-day weekend. A suggestion was made today that we might want to consider shifting, similarly, beginning of the year, you're focusing on students so much, shifting that to the 22nd, which is adjacent to the Yom Kippur holiday on the 25th, so it's still a 4-day weekend for families, and staff would have a PD day that day.
To move September 1st to September 22nd?
Yes, we do want to, again, I want to bring this back to principals, because this just happened today, that we had some of these good suggestions, but every time we think we've solved one problem, we find out that we need something else.
Right, because I bet you'll hear, there's back to school that night, that week, or something that.
Yeah, back to school night's probably like the 21st.
And then we heard if we have a half day right before Thanksgiving, then that will alter also the exams at the high school in June. So just like Dr. Kuska said, there are domino effects that we need to check out.
But that's why I'd asked you to vote last time on start and end dates. So my idea would be get this out tomorrow in the newsletter, post it as a draft on the website, knowing that we still have time to alter, and those aren't things that we necessarily have to vote on. We would just update you.
Yeah, please, because people
thank you
are
for putting
asking.
the June 14th as the end date.
Yes.
That's a good plan.
It was.
The weather needs to cooperate with us.
Exactly, that's the thing.
But in that, you heard why I was thinking that having a full day off before Thanksgiving, people would love that, plus we're not losing a half day of time on learning. However, it is awkward if you end on Monday. Of course, best laid plans, anything can happen.
I know.
And you said Lisa put this calendar together.
Lisa put it together.
This is beautiful.
Yes, she did a very nice job.
No,
colorful.
I know.
But it's clear and helpful. Thank you.
And I appreciate those conference days.
Right. Are you looking for a motion?
No, because you already voted on the start and end date. We just wanted to update you.
So we're good.
I think we're good, and then if we make changes, we'll bring it back to share.
That's good. Can you just
Okay, newsletter?
So, we just talked about the office hours, which are on the newsletter.
Nice.
But, so I have two thoughts, though. This is, I was just looking at the calendar, we're not going to be doing another newsletter March 2nd, because that's right after February vacation.
We'll do the 16th.
Yeah, but that's after two of these office hour days.
Right, so we list the office hour dates.
So you're saying for the link?
Oh,
No, I'm saying if you
the
want,
Zoom link is March 20.
yeah, I'm talking about in terms of advertising.
Did you make a note, Joni?
We're advertising it now.
We advertise the newsletter tomorrow, right? When you-
Okay, sure. I guess that's fine, and I can post on Facebook. But, so here's the other issue. Are we going to send out our newsletter tomorrow, the same day that Susan's sending out her newsletter, which is also the last day when people are most tuned out and people are all going to...
So send it when they get back.
Yeah, that's a great point. We should wait till the 25th or whatever that day might be.
So then we're only giving people like a 2 or 3 day warning on our first office hours, but I'm okay with
Out
that.
of office.
So you know, I thought about that as well, but because I had to present the budget tonight, I wasn't going to send that out ahead of time, which is why we strategically put it.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
But it will go on, we'll put it on the website, and then you could do one of two things. Send it out tomorrow and send it out again on the Monday. You know, I mean, that's...
I think we just wait till the Monday.
I think we wait till Monday.
I do too.
Can you add a blurb about our office hours in your newsletter, or is it like ready to go?
It wouldn't be that hard if you want to just send me just the blurb.
Yeah, and include it in
Yeah, it's a good idea.
with your budget update.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you have questions about the budget, want to meet with school committee?
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. I'll email it to you.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm not-
so
That means your session's not done yet.
did everybody see your newsletter? Do people have any comments or edits for that first section, everything above budget calendar? It's just a summary of what Susan said. On the budget calendar, when is our public hearing on the budgets? And I said budgets because it's operating and capital. It's always both, right?
Let's double check with Keith, but I thought it's April 6th.
Keep the public
April
hearing to
6th.
the budget, April 6th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's
First
that.
Thursday in April.
First Thursday in April.
You all need to get it together. I don't know what's going on over here.
Sorry.
So that's the budget calendar, then we have office hours, then I just put in some helpful links just for fun, and then we have our email addresses.
Do we have the calendar linked, the new academic calendar linked to that?
The school
There
year.
was all,
The new academic.
This
No,
one.
no, we
This
don't, because
here.
I'm going to put it in right.
Oh, sorry.
That's the
I don't
other
wanna
thing
steal
I
your
have
thunder.
to add, so it's okay that I'm adding your dates, because I have to add the calendar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thunder
No, I'm eager to
items.
please.
Sorry.
Just give me 1 second. Lisa,
Yes.
I think I might be able to clean up my calendar for March 1st, so you can put it down.
Okay, yeah.
In-
I'll put you, okay, so I'll just put this both down and we'll figure it out.
I mean,
Well, does that mean you don't want to do Zoom?
no, keep me on Zoom, that's fine.
Okay.
The March 1st one, I'm trying my best to clean the calendar, but I wouldn't know before tomorrow. But yeah, but put me
Okay,
down.
yeah, you don't have to, you can tell me after February vacation.
Yeah, it should be fine.
So motion to approve the newsletter as presented.
Second.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Cynthia. All in favor?
Yep.
Items of information, the minutes from the policy subcommittee. Next meeting date is March 2nd.
Which is so soon. It's gonna be March.
I know. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Amanda.
Oh, second by Stacy.
Amanda, Stacy, all in favor? Thank you very much. Everybody have a wonderful vacation. Enjoy your